a word to the wise. We are an explicit podcast tackling content with adult themes, as well as entering spoiler territory. If you are not caught up with us this week, that would be from the library again. Through.
Hey there, this is Cross.
And this is still Josh.
And we are Words and Whiskey, a podcast for veteran... What? Did you...
Oh, just sorry. That's still Josh.
Oh, yeah, it's all right. It's still Josh. We are Words and Whiskey, a podcast for veteran novice readers alike. We tackle fiction novels and love to talk about what we're drinking. You should think of us as your intoxicating weekly book club. Yeah.
Oh, am I supposed to talk?
Oh, did you? I mean, if you wanted to.
No, I'm good.
I mean, if you got words. You want to say words?
Pass.
Today
Only
is our
whiskey.
9th episode of Demon in White by Christopher Rocchio. This week we're reading The Library again through Lone and Level Sands. Thanks for the notes, Josh. 60 through 65 for those of you reading along that like numbers, like our little Dear Horizon here later. With that, Josh, quick vibe check. How you feeling?
Man. What do you know about libraries, dungeon libraries, under libraries, secret spaceships under dungeon libraries, under libraries, secret, not Cortanas, within the secret spaceships, under the secret libraries, under the secret libraries? What do you know about people quitting their jobs? What do you know about saying bye to your dad? You know? What do you know about finding a place?
One hell of a week, man.
One hell of a week.
yeah. It's not a long week, but it is a good week. You know, I want to make sure that we had time to interrogate a couple of those things. Obviously, there's a lot of great like emotionality, and then also there's a ton of lore tucked in here. So there's like,
Of course.
you know, we're getting the best of both Rocchios in a lot of ways.
Best of both Rocchios.
Yeah. Well, we're not between a Rocchio and a hard place, so
Yeah, it's more of a Christopher the Rocchio Johnson situation.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I didn't think that up until the very last second. I was like, Jesus Christ, are you going to say that? And I was already saying it.
It was already there. It was pretty good.
Yeah, well.
This
But,
week really kills two birds with one Rocchio.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, me doing notes, I'm just Atlas and his Rocchio, you know, just
Yeah.
holding
Atlas
up
carrying his
the whole
Rocchio.
deal. Yeah. And you're Sisyphus with this
So really
little
pushing that
Rocchio uphill.
Rocchio up and down the hill forever. I do feel like we've been pushing this Rocchio up the hill forever.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've made any progress, but you know.
You know, it was very funny that I assumed your wife wrote near the end of the book, and I was like, "Buddy, we got 3 more episodes after this one."
Hey, it's near the end in the overall amount of pages in the scheme, in the sense that it is about 2/3 of the way through.
I did say 3. It is 4. We have 4 more.
It's about 2/3 of the way through. If this was a Sanderson book, I'd finish it tomorrow because it'd be the Sanderson Lanch and I'd finally be enjoying it. But instead, I've been enjoying it so far the whole way. So
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, no, I'm super glad that I really love this book for a lot of reasons, and that's part of the reason that over the next 2 or 3, like the end of this book, I really kind of took the time to slow it down to basically be 5 to 7 chapters, 6 to 7 chapters at a time, because so much happens in the end of this book that it is kind of an avalanche. Not going to borrow the Sanderlands term here, but like there is so much that happens.
it's more
that
of a Rocchio slide, or
it, God damn it. That's so good. That's
Thanks.
so good. I think that there was a I think that their own Discord also has a term for it, but I don't think it's Rocchio slide. And that's so
someone's
good.
gotta bring it to the people. Let them decide. Let the people decide what they want it to be called, because I guarantee it's gonna be Rocchio slide.
The Red Company Discord, I think, will be all over Rocchio slide. That's so good. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about this week for a lot of different reasons. So, you know, do you have any other fun vibe check notes?
I mean, I'm down to jump in. I think there's a lot to talk about, and I already gave a summary of literally everything that happens. So
That's fair. You did summarize well. All right. Well, with that, we will head into the library again after our vacation of last week. At the very end, Valka is fed up with the lack of results as the library is mostly comprised of garbage accounting and documentation. And the Empire being so worried about the demons and their potential to take over more than anything else seems to be a far-fetched result considering what they've found so far. As a part of that, though, we also get an element of their studies over the years, and we get an idea of actually what went down on Earth, which is, and how it all came to pass. So Felsenburg ended a war with Eurasia and the East, and then united the planet and the moon, although at that point, the present empire that we find ourselves a part of was long since gone and established. He breaks a long tradition of presidents surrendering power, instead naming a successor to power as well, of whom was Americanii named Columbia. And boy, she was something of a nightmare too, as we come to understand it, as all of humanity eventually walked into pyramids, and none of them came out again. And we get so much more detail on that particular beat a little bit later and further into this. But like, what were some of your initial thoughts on the presentation of, history here?
Super cool to see how it all unfolds. I feel like there's almost an interesting question raised here, because the Empire we're now a part of, the ones that come back and free everybody from the Americanii, theoretically, the Liberators, they're already gone, so they're never like part of that initial Americanii domination. And it's also stated that people walked into the pyramids. Like, we're never told whether or not the people went willingly.
It seems like they did. That's the impression. Yeah.
So although I do agree,
because they gave them
dreams in the Matrix while I become like a weird tumor amalgamation and I'm sucked into the giant envy body from Full Metal Alchemist. Like, I don't want to be in a Philosopher's Stone, but like, these people did choose to be, and then you showed up and killed the people keeping their dreams alive, and now you've also killed all these people. So like, I don't know morally where that stands with the other empire, but if the Americanii were actively coming for the other empire, then that's defense. It brings up some strange things of morality and choice, but I do think that Rakio had one major miss in this section, and we'll talk about it a little bit more at the end of the chapter, but the way how they find the room, whenever
that is in the next chapter technically, I think, but
we've already established, I'm pretty sure, that the Declaration of Independence is down here, and it could have been a secret map on the back of it, only visible using like lemon juice and heat. And I think that would have been a better choice, personally.
Yeah, for sure. I think it is fun because there is an element of both like National Treasure and Indiana Jones and like Tomb Raider here, throughout a lot of these last couple of weeks. But man, this week in particular does scream less. Man, Indy is kind of messy though too. I don't know how recently you've watched the Indiana Jones movies.
I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of those movies that was my nightlight for a long time. I could quote that movie front to back. I also was a massive fan of The Last Crusade. I will be honest with you. I think I've seen Temple of Doom twice just because I didn't like it growing up.
See, I loved Temple of Doom growing up because it was like the freaky movie, in a lot of ways. And that for me like resonated. But like, I love that trilogy to my core. So for a lot of different reasons, that resonates with me. But as a part of each of those movies, Indy is just more of a mess than I remembered him being rewatching them as an adult. Yeah. Like, that man is a disaster and barely getting through any of the individual scenes. 100%. Which then also makes sense in the context of like The Mummy, which is very adjacent and similar. And like very similarly, that character is kind of a disaster and like barely surviving moment to moment. So Hadrian's behavior, I was going to align more with Nicolas Cage's character, but I don't know. I have a tough time divorcing it from Indy still, like, because Indy would do the same thing. He would absolutely defile the ruin to find the thing in the ruin, Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, Nicolas Cage would not have been willing to poke the hole in the plaster.
Right.
Which we'll get to whenever we get there. But sorry for the weird tangent on if it's National Treasure or if it's Indiana Jones. I still think it's a little bit National Treasure. I just think that Hadrian is our Sean Bean character who's also looking for the map. And Valka is our Nicolas Cage.
That's a fair point.
Smarter, but he's more of a barbarian. I think it lines up perfectly.
Yeah. I rewatched both of those movies very recently while I was helping do sound at a gig for this couple that I help out with.
The National Treasure movies?
The National Treasure movies, they were on
yeah.
a TV in this grocery store that they were playing in, but just with subtitles. So while doing sound, I was switching back and forth and watching the movie and refreshing myself. And I was like, oh, yeah, that does happen in this movie. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It was the most insane way to watch those movies ever.
My definitely not autistic dad puts those movies on every chance he gets.
Amazing.
And we'll just watch them back to back over and
Fun.
over for as long as he's allowed to, till someone makes him stop. So I've watched them a few times, couple times. So specifically that first one a lot, though. I mean, I was going to say Steve Zahn, but it's definitely not Steve Zahn. I feel like we had this conversation recently where I said Steve Zahn, and you're like, no, that's Sahara. What the fuck is the name of the...
Sicario? What?
Sahara, not Sicario.
Oh, the movie? Sahara?
Yeah, honestly, this has a little bit of a Sahara to it.
I'm confused. What are we talking about here?
Sorry, National Treasure.
Yes, National Treasure.
I always forget the name of the third guy. It's not Nicolas Cage and not the girl. And I always want, in my brain, it's Steve Zahn, but that's actually Sahara with a girl and Matthew McConaughey and Steve Zahn. And it's a very similar movie to National Treasure in a lot of ways.
So there's Riley, which is the tech guy.
That's Riley. That's what I'm trying to remember.
But then
I'm not talking about Sean Bean. I can't remember Riley's
Isn't the old
name.
guy Sadusky, which is also a thing? Like there's also
an old guy?
John Voight.
Oh,
right?
His dad.
Oh, no, that's Patrick. Never mind. I was thinking Sadusky is like an old guy that is in the first movie at the very least.
Entirely
the guy
possible.
who plays Riley, who you're thinking of, is Justin Bartha, of whom I don't...
Oh, I guess I probably just wouldn't know his name. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Should have been Steve Zahn. I'll tell you that much.
How did I know that he's in the Hangover trilogy? He's in every movie.
Right?
Bizarre.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway. Crazy. That said, moving on from that crazy reveal, we're going to talk more about that later, especially when we get the details of the cables and consumption and things like that. But most of the crew returns to Fugue, leaving only a handful of guards, Alexander, and others to the library to continue the work. Gibson brings up an interesting point considering Alexander's general purpose, that the Emperor is likely grooming him for service to be the next Emperor.
Makes a lot of sense. Like, this seems like a weird amount of special treatment and, like, very specific. It doesn't seem like anybody else would get sent if they weren't destined for big things. Yeah. I don't like Gibson kind of implies, it's not a certainty, but it logically tracks.
Yeah, it's definitely not a certainty, but like the other people that Hadrian talks about, the other brothers, are both too old likely to rule for more than 100 years. And so it's like the emperorship, the empire as it is maintained by its steward, they prefer longer terms, it seems, for an emperor.
Yeah. And it's been brought up and noted and kind of like attention brought to it multiple times throughout this book, that like a reminder that within Palatine noble houses and also seemingly within the throne itself, like it's not the eldest that innately inherits something. Maybe that's like the most common, but like last section, Hadrian found out his sister is inheriting Devil's Rest, who's younger than him and younger than Crispin. Like it kind of is one of those things that keeps getting brought up, almost as if to like prepare our brains for this revelation, to like accept it as a likely truth,
as a possibility for sure. Yeah, to prep us in some way. Yeah, there are a couple of other things that get brought up here too that are really interesting. The first that I feel like I probably should bring up, maybe should have when we were talking about it a little bit ago, and maybe even last week, is the concept of Columbia, right? I'm sure you're aware mostly, but maybe listeners aren't, especially international listeners. But Columbia is often used interchangeably as sort of like the moniker and or like sort of goddess figure that represents America and the Americas in general. Often used to depict a lot of things over history, including propaganda, and otherwise prominently featured in the name of the Flying City, which is a Christian nationalist city in the game BioShock Infinite. Is sort of the nomenclature. Like it's frequently borrowed to kind of represent those things. A lot of like that same World Fair type time frame kept referring to America as Columbia instead, to kind of portray it as something grander than, older than, bigger than, connected to the old world in some way. Which is very similar, though, also to other nations that have personifications, like Britannia for Britain, and I think it's Marianne or Mariana for France. But there are a number of sort of
that makes sense.
The Western, and they have like goddess-like figures in similar ways. So like statues and things like that. So like I took a photo of Britannia when I was in London. So
I know Britannia. I don't know the one for France, but that's a train horn. I also think like this very small detail that just kind of makes sense whenever you stack it up in the way how he would have written it in the following of history. But it like adds some interesting aspects whenever looking at this empire that is currently existing and how it separated itself from like our world before the Americani take over, but may still have been American in nature before they went out. It's hard to say because Columbia herself is often represented with very Caesar-like accoutrement,
white toga,
white toga, the gold leaf band, like the whole thing, very Roman, very idealized Roman with American colors, and like, so yeah, it adds some added like question to the connection in history and where the branching happens and where this empire comes from with, you know, William coming back to destroy the Americani. Even though we get a lot of answers about the history in this section, like it almost begs more questions too, in a very interesting and fun way. I like that. Oh yeah. But yeah, like it pretty much confirms this is an all but actual direct truth sequel to The Matrix. Like there's so much to this that's just like a very fun section. But yeah, Columbia is the physical representation of the United States of America and the Americas, but really in a lot of ways the representation of like imperialist America. And
for sure, yes, that's the way that it changed much later. Well, not much later, but
you were talking about like and anybody international might not know that DC stands for District of Columbia. You know, like this is the capital of the United States, ran by Columbia. So
yeah, and like vaguely, obviously, like the namesake is based on Christopher Columbus, but in the end, it's kind of divorced from it,
become its own mythology almost.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting, especially if you consider it like a mythology, like you would be looking back on it as the sort of like holier thing. And Columbia spreading with her 52, you know, daughters or what have you. And Columbia also maybe being like, is this a literal manifestation as like an AI entity? Or is this daughter of Columbia being that Columbia is the state in some way?
Exactly.
It's a very interesting question. Better yet, I love that you brought up the Greco-Roman comparison or the Roman comparison here for Columbia, because the Greek comparison works better for Britannia and importantly, and like a little bit of Roman influence for sure. But I find it fun as well that Britain conquered the U.S. again eventually. In the end, the UK came back and took her land back, you know. Yeah. Although we maybe nuked it to oblivion in the end, who knows?
For sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of a fun little like crosstalky kind of thing there, you know, where it's like a good little historical full circle, but also like yikes.
I just have to assume that throughout this whole history, Ireland got fucked so many times.
Oh man, Ireland! No one remembers Ireland at all. Yeah.
Like somehow Ireland endured just enough to get fucked again every time.
You know, I mean, actually, between the Scots and the Irish, red hair is the dominant gene. So, like, there is maybe something there to say that, like,
to believe that the Irish and the Scots earned their freedom, left to the stars, came back, and freed humanity. You know, maybe I want to believe that. Maybe that's what I want to believe.
It's tough to say, but
it's probably
to me, it's more likely
spelled out later, and I'm not right. But you know, maybe I just want the Irish and the Scots to have a win for once.
Very reasonably. I mean, I get it. A couple of other fun notes here. Temet Noske is one of the things that is mentioned within this phrasing as Gibson and Hadrian are having their conversation. And this is inscription that is over top of the Temple of Delphi, inscribed over the arch, and a lot of Socratic notes throughout this chapter, as Gibson notes, are mostly inappropriately given to Socrates, when in fact most of them are or have been reascribed to him via Plato and others. So like it's very tough to say what is actually Socratic and what isn't, and that's been a problem with all of history, versus the things that can be very clearly attributed as Socrates. And Hadrian, blanket a couple of times, like I pointed out in previous books, gives Socrates credit for things that other people said. Because it's sort of like, it was that old Greek guy. It was one of those guys, one of those fuckers. Even though it was like Plato's and Archimedes and other things like that.
I'm sure we'll touch on it whenever we get there. But there's a direct Socrates moment later in this too that I harkened back to those that I liked. But
yeah. I also can't help but adore one of my favorite quotes in this entire book, and it's very simple. It's a simple line: "The greater part of wisdom is silence." And it's such like a simple adaptation of a good maxim. And that's what makes a good maxim, right? Simplicity. So
would you say that implies that the wisest beings are the quiet? Look at us being so wise right now.
It's especially potent because like next week we open with the chapter called Empire of Silence.
Yes,
so
yeah.
Where do you go from there? And the first book is, Empire of Silence.
We should release one really wise episode. It's just an hour and a half of dead air.
Dude, hour and a half, 4 hours if we're going on
4
last
hours,
week.
Yeah. Well, I figured we could shorten it. I'm sure brevity is also something that is indicative of wisdom.
Brevity is the weapon of the foolish, is what I've always heard. So.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. We could probably do a little bit tighter. That's fine.
More words mean smarter.
More words means good. We were so good last week.
Yeah, last week was a little rough, but hey, that's what happens when we do it on a weekend night. So no, it was still a weeknight, wasn't it? Yeah,
that was
a Sunday. God damn.
Yeah, but it was. I mean, I don't know. We had a lot to say, and also we kept going on side tangents, specifically about Kingdom of Heaven. And man, I went back to it and I was like, we reference this so often that I can't cut it out. What do I do?
Nothing's gonna make sense.
We talked so much. We referenced back so often to some of those things. I was like, Jesus Christ, I can't. So apologies, listeners. That probably should have been 40 minutes shorter than it was, but I think we needed some of the context.
And I'm pretty sure I was drinking like a local double IPA and Crossland was having an entire bottle of wine. So,
It's true. I did have 3/4 of a bottle of wine and then a beer and the cocktail. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That said, Gibson then sits down with Alexander for a lesson on his place in the universe. And I do think that it brings a little hope to me that this little brat could change for the better. This thought, however, is interrupted by Volga having made a discovery in the archives that we're about to hop into here. Yeah.
Do you think Gibson could make Alexander change for the better? And I think that the real question that brings up is Hadrian better than Alexander?
I mean, that's a question for you. What do you think?
I think.
How do you feel about this?
Yes, but also I don't think Hadrian is as advanced as Hadrian believes he is.
Alexander is, yeah.
Hadrian thinks that Hadrian is so much more like.
Oh, sure, yeah. Aloof, extra,
I would
better,
say so much more
above it all.
Scholiastic, he's so much more like a Scholiast than Alexander, and he looks at Alexander and he smirks, and I'm like, y'all are so similar.
Yeah, you don't even know,
in my opinion,
right?
But I think Gibson could make Alexander as good or slightly better as Hadrian is in book 1, which is an improvement. But he's just going to be a brat till he lives life and has some shit happen to him.
For sure, yeah,
and then maybe he'll get better. But I don't think it's going to be like Gibson's teachings can give him the framework. Hadrian's guidance can give him the framework. But he just has to go out there and live life, which I think is the whole point of what the Emperor is doing here.
Right. Giving him something that isn't on any of these sort of reservist royal planets that are meant to protect,
At at the end of the day, I can't help but think of, just because I'm always thinking about this fucking show, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, in the final episode of it. The prince asks asks Dunk if he'll take Egg on as squire at the palace, and he's like, I'll take him on as squire, but only if we live my way. We're gonna go out, we're gonna sleep in halls, in barns, and the occasional hedge. And he says, like, my son will not eat salt beef and sleep in ditches. And he's like, your son, this one son only ever ate like the fattiest of beefs, and this other son only ever slept on a feather bed, and they both fucking suck, and like I think that's what's going on here. I'm pretty sure he puts it more eloquently than that, but I'm pretty sure he does.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. Yeah.
Both these dudes fucking like suck eggs,
less eloquently in a different way. Yeah,
for sure. It has that moment of like, I think that's why he's here. It's to break him out of that soft life that makes so many of the royals shitty, which harkens back to like he's definitely being prepped for the throne. But like, I like that he's sitting here, he's learning, he's trying to engage in it. That shows that he has a willingness to learn and be better. But it's not going to be here with Gibson that makes him better. It's going to be out there experiencing some fucking trauma, like only trauma makes you funny.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Trauma, or the ability to internalize and understand why you should self-deprecate to make fun of yourself. Like those are the two. You have to be able to make fun of yourself first to understand how to make fun of others properly.
Exactly. Otherwise you're just punching down. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Which is, I mean, trauma gives you an easy out in a lot of cases.
Hey, you can punch down as far as you want as long as you're the final hit at the bottom.
Yeah, right, exactly. You can go through all of those. You can ground pound straight through all of those Mario bricks as long as you're that little
the
solid steel brick
at the end.
Yeah, right. You're that steel brick at the end just greeting Mario's ass. Nose in, straight to the perineum.
All right, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I mean, I went there.
Hey, I saw Super Mario Galaxy the other day. I started meal prepping halfway through. I have no clue what happened, but there was a lot of noises.
It sounds like you heard Super Mario Galaxy the other day.
Yeah.
Which probably isn't that different from seeing it.
yeah, pretty much. I was like, I don't feel like I understood what happened, but I really don't think I missed the plot point.
I don't feel like it was worse for me having not paid attention.
Star Fox was cool.
Yeah, well, that's neat. I mean, man, talk about a character that I don't need to get into it.
Moving on. Yeah, we don't need this episode to be 4 hours of Star Fox references.
Correct. With that, we'll move into. All I have to say is that Star Fox Assault is the best game, and if you disagree, you're wrong. That said, Horizon. Was that an okay? Was that a you agree?
That was I don't have a strong enough opinion to disagree, but I do think it's great. Yeah.
Okay, fair. I was ready to fight. Just kidding. I'm
not a Nintendo boy, so all I can talk about is Spyro. But
Spyro's good. Spyro's good. I get it.
Spyro's my Star Fox. Horizon Zero Dawn is a great game as well.
And also is sort of what this whole little section feels like, kind of like we talked about last week and a little bit this week is like, I mean, obviously it's adjacent. I kind of knew that going into this, which is why I maybe mentioned it a little bit last week on accident, on purpose. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to get into it as much as I did, but I did get into it more than I intended to. We start the chapter with Valka unrolling a crystal map of the archive from the architect, Aramini, and reveals an area that appears to be hidden beneath the main shaft of the library, as well as Alexander being pretty confident that it is a blast pit to have a ship landed within it, as well as a Faraday cage to contain any signals that could escape. It's a fun reveal for it to be considered a Faraday shield and then a cage, as Hadrian says it, to give it a little bit more drama as he explains the science fiction nature of it all. There's also a question as to why they would have built a cage, and Hadrian believes it is because something has been left operational here.
Okay. Don't shoot me. I have a mild critique of this book in general, a little bit, specifically the section. I think up to this point, it's laid on a little too thick. I would have liked to be more surprised by this reveal.
By the robot?
I was like, clearly there's a Americani demon down there, like that they know is
Sure.
still active. They're like, oh, we have nukes set up to blow up the library and flood it so nothing gets out. What else am I supposed to think is down there? You know?
Yeah. I mean, okay, fair point. Like they're aware enough, but also like they clearly weren't aware of what they actually had, which is a different thing.
But like with all the context and the way how the book is written, I feel like it's so heavily implied that we will probably run into another Americani down there.
Of course, and I don't disagree with you on that necessarily. I don't disagree with you on that at all. I think it's the nature of the thing that is very different, which we get into in Computer God, but
I think we could have reframed the scene in the last section to where it's like, oh, it's so nothing gets out. It could have been as simple as changing it to if anyone tries to remove anything or something like that. Something that doesn't imply they're like afraid of something down there that has its own ability to escape. Because like we're going to nuke the place if anything tries to get out implies not like if anyone tries to steal something, but there's stuff down there that could try and leave of its own accord. That kind of leads to only one possible explanation in my mind based on what this place is and what the story is.
Yeah, for sure.
So I wish it was more about keeping the secrets that are contained here that they talked about. I don't know that the idea that there's nukes that will flood this area lend enough extra tension to this section to where we even needed it at all, because it oversold what's down here. And I would have loved to have the Faraday shield moment and then the Faraday cage moment be like, oh, fuck, there's Americani down here, which it's supposed to be. But to me, I was like, well, yeah, of course they have a Faraday cage. There's Americani down here. So that's my one critique of this section is the entire time that they were having revelations. And I think it continues throughout this section a little bit. Every revelation they had, I was like, I thought we already knew that to a degree of like, they gathered the people and they formed them into people soup using cancer to use them to further their brain power.
We didn't know all of that, but there were elements of it that you could construct.
I feel like
very
with
easily
Brethren
put together.
and with the pyramids, like was more of a confirmation and less of a reveal. And I feel like there's multiple times throughout the section where it's played like a reveal, but it's more of a confirmation. And I'm like, the confirmation's still cool. But this Faraday cage moment is written in a way that feels so suspenseful, like an old movie that has that reveal, that I wish we didn't have the tease earlier. And maybe if they weren't separated like by sections, I wouldn't have like, thought so heavily about it. If maybe whenever someone just like reads the book and continues on, it's all kind of one slow big reveal. But for me,
you didn't read it twice.
Reading it twice and then talking about it for 4 hours and then thinking about it and then reading the next part and then doing it twice. Like it feels so obvious. But
there are these moments where I do think that like some of the method devalues the nature of the work just because like in combination, nothing can be perfect as like reading it as a pure experience, right? But then like you can't capture the individual moments and things like that. So I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you for the record.
But I do think that the format heightened that, but I would have felt that anyways if I was just reading it as a read person.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. I think that the one thing that this points to me is the water, the nukes, the other things were redundant to begin with. Like they built those things in anticipation of something worse being inside, when in fact it was caged by an older society that understood how to maintain it. You know what I mean? Like there's a separation of knowledge there that's implied that I appreciate, but that doesn't make the tension less, to your point. Like that doesn't.
Yeah, I think that works well for the story, the plot, and the lore, but the tension of the moment would have been better if we maybe found out about the nukes afterwards, or if just something about like
not at all, frankly. Like what if it wasn't at all and it was just water?
Yeah,
or maybe it was just nukes, but
or like maybe the nukes and the water or anything else could have been something we learned from Horizon. Like, maybe they're like, can we take you with us so that you can guide us there? And she somehow knows about it and is like, if you remove me from this place, we will all die, and like tells them about the nukes that the Empire, I don't know, something like that. But,
go ahead. Sorry.
But I feel like the Faraday cage or the Faraday shield and then reframing it as a Faraday cage is a better tension building line and a cooler moment than the nukes in the water before we know what's down there.
Definitely.
To
For sure.
imply the existence of what we're going down to. But because it's already been implied by the heightened security in the situation and the specific phrasing, I think even if we just remove the phrasing of in case something tries to get out, it kind of solves it. But I want this to be the first time it's implied that we're trying to cage something down here and not just protecting
to keep
secrets.
something in, not just protect secrets. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Versus like it felt very obvious that it was like a whole thing last week. And some of that I think is also like there is this interesting problem and boon, frankly, of the story where like old Hadrian and new Hadrian are balancing information with us, right? Like Rockio balances the information from old Hadrian and new Hadrian. And so like sometimes we get peeks past where current Hadrian is at to give us information so that we understand the context of why what's happening is so crazy that he doesn't understand until a little bit later. And then it kind of compounds itself in some ways. But sometimes that leads to like moments that are weird.
Yes,
yeah,
of course. With all that said, I think that's like my only critique of the section at all, and most of this book. Like this book's fucking rad. So having this moment where I was like a little thrown or a little disappointed by the like the order of operations for the rollout of a reveal, it's kind of a kudos to the book that like this is my nitpick, you know?
Yeah. To layer in my own, basically on top of what you're saying, like I'm both simultaneously glad and like kind of wish that there was something akin to this, but like this section lacks a bomb going off in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Brethren, by comparison, if we just like draw a comparison, we haven't talked about Computer God yet, but we can talk about this whole first half of the chunk versus that. Brethren felt like there was a bomb going off because Karn Sagara was coming, because Brethren put a clock on the moment and was freaking out. This moment doesn't have that. It seems as though the clock is artificial in a lot of ways. Like they could spend infinite time interrogating Horizon, or sorry, Horizon.
Yeah, Horizon.
Theory.
Yeah. There's no bomb going off, but also Brethren was a reveal that was to some degree or another completely unexpected, right? Like,
well, it was preempted. There's some mystery there. You kind of got some, but it was more like a horror story where it's like it's just the tendrils of information
down there. There's something possibly AI derivative to learn that it's an actual Maricani lore, to learn that it's this actual writhing beast of flesh and mounds and cancer is a big reveal. This reveal maybe would have worked as well if we never met Brethren.
Well, we did know that it was cancer at the time, but
right.
Now we
but
know
I mean,
cancer.
it's a bunch of hands.
Right. I understand.
Together, whatever.
Yeah.
That was a good reveal in the section that they just gave them all cancer so they would form tumors and meld together into one mass. Crazy. But yeah, because we've already had the reveal with Brethren, which worked incredibly well, I wish this reveal was played a little closer to the chest.
Sure.
That's it.
Yeah. Totally makes sense to me. I do want to say that I really do like some of the writing though within the component that we're talking about. You know, I had specifically mentioned the word cage, right? So from Rockio, the word cage conjured images of prisons of the bottles demons and jinn were captured in ancient stories. Unbidden, one of the door murals I had seen in the house of Karn Sagara floated in my mind to the child of Karn enthroned, clutching Brethren in a flask upon his lap. And, you know, I know there are some references to this in later books. I know that Rockio loves Full Metal Alchemist.
Like it has to be Full Metal Alchemist, right?
There's a chapter later in this series called Dwarf in a Flask. Okay. And I'm like,
I was trying so hard
I know.
Not to be that guy who's like only ever seen Boss Baby and then sees a second movie and is like, I'm getting big Boss Baby vibes from this movie.
Right. Sure.
But because I'm currently watching Full Metal Alchemist, it was wild reading that. I'm like, this is Full Metal Alchemist, right? Like I'm not just like thinking about it because I'm watching it right now. This is Full Metal Alchemist, right? Okay, cool.
I mean, I think it's just a reference as to the idea, but also like a fun little callback. And again, like I said, there's a later chapter in either the 6th or 7th book that's Dwarf in a Flask specifically. And it's like perfect chapter title, perfect callback. There's some intentional callbacks to Full Metal, and it's like he knew what he was doing.
Yeah,
and he's like layering that throughout. Yeah,
just like history has lost certain information, combined information, so now it's Sid Arthur. I'm pretty sure that he should. I think he already has referenced Oppenheimer, but he should call him Hohenheim. And then
absolutely, yeah,
yeah, Hohenheimer,
totally. Hohenheimer, there you got it.
Them. Yeah, but yeah, so that line right there, this whole section that you just read, is fucking brilliant, and it's why I was upset about
undercut. Yeah,
it was undercut. It's not that the stuff before was bad or this isn't good. It's that this is so incredible. I wish my mind didn't immediately go while listening to, well, yeah, there's Americanii on there. Rather, I wish I was like, oh, fuck, there's another Americanii on there.
Yeah. What is it? Is it the same?
Maybe like that other part was written first and then this part was written. He's like, damn, that's really good. Let's put it in. And then everybody who read it, like, it's like, damn, that's really good. Keep that in. But I wish somebody would have gone back and be like, hey, cut that other shit so that this sings more. But that's all.
Yeah. Makes sense to me. I mean, like, I think that like a lot of long books, it's often that you can point to a scene and be like, okay, we could probably trim that down. And I think this is the trimmest of the long books. And I don't mean that in a bad way to insult the later books, but I do think that, like, that's just a thing that happens with long books. You can more easily 100%. Point out sections where you're like, we are maybe too heavy-handed there in the long run, but maybe you needed a couple of sentences, or maybe you need some foreshadowing, or maybe,
Christopher Rocchio, if you're reading this, I will send you the 220 pages I have written of my one day maybe fantasy novel that will never get published, and it's not good, and you can tear it to shreds. You're a much better writer. Also have fun.
He's a very good editor, so I'm sure he could give you notes.
Right. And they won't be nice, and they shouldn't be, Yeah.
I get it. That said,
I'm not saying I can do what you do. I'm just,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is all constructive criticism. We obviously love the story, and again, I wouldn't, as mentioned and talked about previously, I wouldn't pick a story that I think that, like, didn't deserve its place among the shelves of stories. We're spending, I mean, you obviously didn't necessarily understand this when you signed up for this, but you're spending
and a half?
two years-ish? Yeah, year and a half, 2 years talking about one book series. So, like, that's a serious life commitment. That's,
of course,
an 80th or a 40th of your life, in time frame, not like total time, obviously.
Also,
not like,
I had a lot more of them whenever we were reading Empire of Silence. I have to jump on my critiques now because I don't get them that much,
Sure, makes sense. Yeah.
This is improving exponentially book to book so far.
Very, very fair. They do begin, though, this search that we found very interesting earlier, and Hadrian points out that it seems that they've sort of collectively lost their minds as they're trying to find any way through these walls, until eventually Hadrian notices the portraits of the presidents again and the plaster around them. Hadrian borrows Gibson's brass-tipped cane with its solid brass tip, not just a little coating around it, and much to Volka's chagrin starts ramming it through the plaster near every portrait, starting with Felsenburgh and working his way back. Eventually he finds his mark right under Truman, and Volka mutters, "I hate you," before they begin to excavate and find what they need.
I love the moment where Hadrian's like, why Truman? I don't know. Doesn't matter. And then just kind of moves on. Or why you? Because he doesn't know who Truman is. But like, because Truman made the atomic bomb. Mm-hmm. Or he didn't make it, but it was Truman working with Oppenheimer, right? Like,
I mean, Truman was a vice president during the development, so like you could put it mostly on.
But he's the one who was directly in charge of.
He dropped the bomb, which is the important part.
Dropped the bomb.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he was the one who was more directly actually involved, communicating like with the teams of that project, right?
Yeah, more so. But
I guess there's just famous quotes of him to Oppenheimer with the bomb. But.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, Truman is more involved, but like ultimately a president delegates that kind of thing, so it's his decision. But in the end, I think the important thing with Truman, in my mind, isn't just the communication, which is important, but also he chose to drop the bomb. And so the comparison in my mind between Felsenburgh and Truman is to say, you both unleashed something that you didn't understand the consequences of in the long run.
Very, very much as so the quote I'm thinking of is whenever Oppenheimer said that he felt he had blood on his hands, Truman called him a crybaby scientist.
True. Yeah.
And that's I feel like that's weirdly both sides of the Felsenberg of this all. Is it's interesting to put it under Truman, who unleashed the atomic bomb, or maybe, was involved in the delegation of sending it off. And then,
yeah, I mean, he chose to drop the bomb regardless.
Yes,
that was his decision.
Dismisses the scientist who feels regret for making it, when Felsenberg is maybe both. He
is both. Yeah, from our understanding. Yeah.
So I feel like whenever I heard Truman, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, the atomic bomb is the closest thing we have in our history to that level of shift, except for maybe the world we're living in right now. We'll see where it ends up. But
yeah, it's kind of crazy in consideration. I mean, this is sort of like a meta conversation that I think maybe we can get into more after we finish Computer God. But there is like a general meta conversation here of like, Rocchio wrote this in 2020, the advent of like AGI or generative AI as we understand it was just beginning with sort of like first iterations in a lot of ways.
But it was like a weird fun thing that nobody thought
I played with it. I played with image generation because it was COVID, right? And so you just kind of started messing around with stuff.
We all thought Will Smith eating spaghetti was funny at one point.
Right.
And then now it's like the sign of the beginning of the end.
Right.
So
yeah, so it kind of tips into a sort of dissonant unreality. And so I want to save as much of that until we're done with Computer God.
Of course.
Because there's so much there to talk about within that. But I love the comparison between Truman and Felsenberg and sort of this general idea that we can go down in addition to the like layer of tyranny and fascism, the fact that like he's, I think, 70-something, 73rd president? It was in the 70s. I can't remember which.
77th, I think he says.
77th. Okay, sure.
I'm not. Hey, don't at me.
He's definitely in the 70s.
That's what it's definitely in the 70s. And I was trying to do the math in my head. So like, I'm gonna do it right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so.
While you're doing the math, I'm going to bring up something that, may be an interesting point of conversation and maybe entirely irrelevant and may not matter at all. But I think it's...
I have the math.
Yep.
No, bring it up. Bring it up. Bring up your thing.
You do you. Bring up the math.
Minimum, if everyone only serves one term, from now, it's 128 years from now that Felsenberg is elected. Maximum, if everybody serves 2 terms from now, it would be a double that, so 256. So it's somewhere between like 150 and 250 years from now that this takes place.
Okay.
Felsenberg's rise, not necessarily the Americani, but
Yeah.
Unless term limits all get fucked up at some point in the near future.
Well, and we know that he eventually reigns for longer, broke tradition, and then handed it off to a successor. So, like, there's some, like, argument there.
So you can assume that maybe he was the one who breaks away from terms, but obviously there's enough mystery in it to where you could really say, oh, well, somewhere between here and there, term limits got rid of, but there was still elections if you wanted to make it longer.
Yeah.
Or you could be like, oh, like, terms were renegotiated every month if you wanted to be like, oh, it was actually sooner. Like, there's plenty of adjustments because you're dealing with made up history in the middle there. But yeah, somewhere between like 150, 250 generally.
Yeah, exactly. And it's definitely somewhere in the 70s. I can't quite find it. I'm near it in the text, but I don't want to interrogate it too much further.
We'll say it's about 200 years from now, average.
I think that's
likely.
Probably about right. And I would say...
Which is wild that if I was reading this in 2020, I'd be like, that sounds about right. And right now I'm like, that feels a little too far.
It feels a little too far. It's kind of nuts. In addition, not to paint too direct of a political picture on this, but importantly, I think Rocchio runs through a number of different names, and the last one this week in the presidential ladder is Hawley. And I don't... Like, Hawley is not an uncommon name, especially in American politics, if you look back at like the ratio of senators, congressmen, and otherwise. It's a very American last name, Hawley, right? But at present, Josh Hawley was like a rising star politician in a lot of ways. So I could see intentionally writing him into your like post de facto fantasy when you're writing it in 2019 to him then be elected. He was elected in 2018, not have like started to espouse some of the ridiculous things that he ended up doing. And then like in post, maybe regretting it a little bit. I don't know. I think that all that I've learned from reading this series back is like keeping even more of the present references out is better in science fiction. I agree. Like give yourself that 60-year space. Yeah, old references,
just
new references.
Say, honestly, like, and granted, this is again something that would have happened post 2020, but I love the idea that like if you were going to do a modern reference, just reference like the capitalistic overtake or like the capitalistic overhaul that led to the death of the Internet Archive. Unfortunately, wiped out everything we know from 1950 to 2122 or something like that. And then you don't have
outside
to talk
of the
about
photos of presidents. Yeah.
And then you don't have to talk about any of that shit. You're like, basically capitalists got so heavily involved in monetizing information that we don't have reliable information from that time anymore.
Yeah. Would be very interesting.
And you could just move on.
I get the idea, though, to be frank, of like also putting Hawley as a president because, like, I mean, dude's a young politician at this point. He could totally do it within the next 40 years before he'd have to retire. He's not that old. Like, considering the current stance of presidents recently,
at this point,
chances are good he'd get elected.
I think I could be president. I grew up
with enough time. Yeah,
I couldn't. At this point, I think if I'm a bad enough person, I could do it. So
bad enough in the good ways.
Maybe.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, exactly.
But I felt like I couldn't skip over the reference. It's impossible to say whether or not it's a reference to you know Hawley at present. But it's also it's just a name, and it's just one of many. There were many names that were given over the course of the 2 weeks, most of which don't have references. This one there is one analog to in the political sphere at the present moment. So I don't think like it's anything, but
it's a non-specific enough reference to where if it is a reference and then it doesn't pan out in the future, it doesn't matter.
No, right, exactly. Like it literally doesn't. And
it's
I don't
kind
think
of a smart
is,
reference in that where it's like it's vague enough that like, hey, maybe one day people read this and be like, how do you know? Or maybe one day people read this and be like, I don't even know who that is, and then just move on. Like it's a made up name. So
exactly. I just feel too oblivious not to mention it. So it warrants the briefest mentions here. So
yeah, fair enough.
They dig, and on the other side of the door, marked with all kinds of warnings, they find a ship with the markings USS Horizon. They open the door, and we proceed to the next chapter. Like it's very much like a cliffhanger.
Yeah,
computer god. Yeah.
I do like, I don't know. There's this vintage sci-fi moment of like finding an American spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
Like yes, it's Americanized spacefaring vessel. But this is an American spaceship, like.
Yeah, how American is it though? After the AI took over,
well, the American flag's basically the same.
Yeah,
I was doing my best, like mid to low tier English actor, like an English television actor doing an American accent. An American spaceship.
I mean, it's not that different from Benedict Cumberbatch's take, so I'll take it.
And his is better, but it's not great.
Ever so slightly.
Dormammu,
yep.
I have come to bargain.
I have come to bargain. I do really like those movies, but
he's a great actor. His accent leaves something to be desired. It's fine. Tom Holland, I believe that kid's from New York by this point. I didn't in the first two movies. Third one was pretty good. At this point,
it's
honorary queens.
It's kind of fascinating. Like, obviously, he's British when you listen to him in interviews, but I can't help but feel and hear the influence of his acting being predominantly American and also likely being around Zendaya all the time.
Well, and he's lived in America a lot of his life at this point.
Yes, at this point. And so, like, his accent seems to have been going down on the British side in general. Like, I feel like it's not
even in interviews.
He will always be British, clearly, but it is softening, interestingly.
Okay. As like a one quirked up white boy to another Tom Holland, like he is a British guy and he sounds like a British guy. But at the end of the day, he's a British guy who's like experienced actual culture now. And so
Nice.
like, thank you, Zendaya, for giving Tom Holland some spice. You know, like that's what he needed in life. He went from being any other British guy to now he might actually become one of the greats with time, you know? But
very possible. Very possible. All right. With that, I think we can get into Computer God, which is going to be a bulk of the fucking episode. Everything else is so easy. There's so much to talk about here.
Yep.
All right, Josh, you're going to have to lead off with your cocktail as we reappear here suddenly in frame.
I just tried it for the first time. The gods should punish me for this, but unfortunately, it's okay.
Cool. We love that. We love that.
Okay, so I'm trying to remember exactly what I did. Because I was going to write it down, but then I started talking about other shit. All right, I'm gonna walk through the process. I put down my crystal thing you stir shit in. Has a word.
Stir shitter. Yes.
I used my crystal stir shitter. I put half an ounce of fresh squeezed lemon juice in there. And then I put 1.5 ounces of Sazerac rye whiskey.
Ooh.
And then I did a half ounce of Nonino Amaro.
Ooh.
And then a half ounce of
Swins the color.
super cheap brandy.
Mm.
And then the smallest droplet of sesame oil.
Mm.
And then stirred that shit up a lot. Tasted it, and I was like, and I don't know how else to explain this. It looked it, and I knew it looked it, but it tasted too brown.
Because it looks pretty fucking brown. Yeah.
So I added a dollop. I didn't even measure it. I just did a splash, just a good little splash of dry vermouth.
Okay. Lengthening it, sweetening it a little bit. Yeah.
Stirred it back up, poured it up. Wasn't really feeling it. Poured it back in the thing, poured in some Coke Zero, stirred that, poured it out, and actually it kind of fucks. It's kind of good. I think the Coke Zero actually tied it together. It doesn't taste like Coke Zero at all.
Hang on. The cocktail sounded like a cocktail.
I should be cursed and crucified. I should be made an example of on a mountain in front of everybody to see. But unfortunately, it's kind of good, and I think the Coke Zero actually like tied it together.
That's crazy. I mean, only because like I genuinely considered I had a little bit of this earlier in my fridge, and I had some like I had like a half of a thing of voltage, like
kind of balanced. Oh god, it's
and I was in the same boat where I was like, man, if I had some of that, I maybe would have added this to this cocktail. When I was thinking about it, I was like, no, fix it normally, make it normal, fix it yourself. That's crazy.
Nah.
I was tracking the cocktail. I was like, okay, yeah, no, see that. Probably one like maraschino or something. Or like,
yeah,
okay,
you probably want like something
yeah.
that's like a syrupy, slightly sweet, but like not like a normal sweetness.
One
maybe
fucking
a little bit of
understands
carbonation,
what you're saying.
Some Coke Zero,
like
baby.
what if you got some? What if you got some? What if you got some syrup with your carbonation? Would that be good? I guess that's what we're getting.
No, I know what's weird is it tastes like an elevated rum and Coke. There's no rum in it, but the combination of like the Nonino and the sweet vermouth and the whiskey and the brandy almost gives off a rummish flavor. And there's Coke, and then like the sesame oil makes it taste like you're having a really fancy like deconstructed rum and Coke at a sushi bar.
You're delightfully despicable. What's your beer?
My beer is
Delirium Tremens.
It's a delirium. It's a
Yeah.
delirium tremens. It's the blue boy with the pink elephant. It's a good beer. It's not a
Belgian
rare beer.
Belgian double. Belgian.
It's a Belgian double. It's 8.5%. Sorry, Mom. I have not been drinking beer this week. I go through weeks of no beer. Whenever I know I have multiple things I have to take my shirt off for. I now live in an apartment complex with a pool. We throw pool parties sometimes. I don't drink beer on those weeks. But threw a pool party Saturday. My best friend, one of my two best friends, I should say, in case they listen to this podcast, I know neither of them do. One of my two best friends, Brandon, brought me this beer because he got one, and he's like, I got you this. And I was like, I'm not drinking beer right now, but I'll use it for the podcast. So, yeah, drinking a Belgian double. It's very tasty.
I assume you've had delirium before.
Oh,
yeah?
Of course. Yeah. It's like a staple elevated European beer.
It's the accessible Belgian, like where you can get it anywhere, and it's great. It's solid.
Like, you're at a decent bar when they have it,
Yeah.
But it's not like, whoa, they have it. Yeah. So
it's like okay, looks good.
It's also a beautiful can. I love that fuck ass elephant, So
yeah, little Dumbo action, basically.
Yeah. But I also made a rum and coke with too many steps.
That's fair. You did. Yeah.
What did you make?
Before I talk about what I make, I'm going to talk about my beer first, actually, for a change.
Before I talk about what I make.
And before I talk about what I make, I'm going to talk about the Skylar's Carrot Cake Double Belgian. So this is the second time that this has appeared on Flytrap, which is probably the local fave brewery here at this point. At the very least, mainstay that I go to the most frequently from breweries. And I've had plenty of their beer on the show before. I may have even had the original of this beer on the show, but they rebrewed it, and by God, it is so good. It's literally made with carrots and carrot cake and from a local farm, and it's amazing.
Does it taste like a moist, crumbly, cinnamon-forward carrot cake? Or does it taste like a dry-ass carrot cake your fitness aunt made?
Moist as fuck. It's so good. Josh, I don't generally drink before recordings, but when we record on Mondays, we do trivia, so I do have a beer or two, and I had two because this was back on tap finally.
Beers. Yeah,
I had 1 or 2 small beers. I had 2 of these before we started recording because I was like, Jesus. And that was hours before, obviously, but oh, God, so good.
Incredible. That sounds... side tangent, go into your cocktail after it. I love carrot cake. I just think carrot cake can be better than pumpkin pie. Or sweet potato pie. It can just also be worse than
every other dessert. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the biggest gamble. It's the most play to win. It's gonna be like a dry ass chocolate chip cookie with raisins if the wrong person made it. I don't trust a carrot cake, but whenever you get a good one, goddamn.
Strangely, yellow cake is actually kind of the same, even though it's just white cake with flavoring. But I find that people make the same mistakes with carrot cake that they do with white cake or yellow
Very
cake,
much so.
a lot of the time. So and especially because it's yellow, they're nothing. I don't see any C's marks because it's different than white. Yeah. And I'm colorblind. I'm you overbake that shit. Get it out the oven. What are you doing?
Dry as shit. And you didn't add
I don't need to see yellow to right.
There's a lot
orange.
of people who make healthy carrot cakes where they forget that it's still a cake. What if it was carrot bread? I'm I'd probably like that more than whatever the fuck this is. But
yeah, whatever the fuck you did here is bad. So to talk about something that isn't so bad, I did
that looks way prettier than mine.
A lovely little cocktail here. This is maybe not the most fuck shit cocktail that I've ever made making fuck shit cocktails, but it's close. So this is, again, using the same vodka because I'm out of primary spirits. I didn't realize this until I went back to it. I've got 2 different things of vodka at the moment and some scotch, but the scotch is sipping scotch, not cocktail scotch. So I was like, I'm not going to mix anything with that. So I was like, I guess I have to use this crazy ass, mixed vodka again. And so it's the Potion of Love vodka that I've talked about before. It has sugar infused into it. It has a combination of oranges and grapefruit infused into it. So it's a little bit fruity, a little bit sweeter than you might expect. Used 2 ounces of that. I used an ounce of Campari and then a half an ounce of maraschino, 1 ounce of lemon juice, bar spoon of green chartreuse. Threw that all together, came out. I was like, whoa, too bitter. What do I do? Must fix. Fix. Yeah, it was just a little over the top. And the fix was pretty simple, actually, to put it out on the other side.
Oh, was it simple?
It was not simple. No syrup was
that
added
would
to
have
this.
fixed it.
Yeah, it would have. It definitely would have. I took a lemon peel. I put the oil on top. I then took. I've got a saline solution that I actively have at all times. I put 3 drops of saline, and then I did a spritz of absinthe on top.
Oh yeah, that absinthe will bring out a lot of sweetness. So.
Perfect cocktail. Perfect cocktail. I don't know how that happened. It changed from fuck shit bad to like, oh wait, this actually is amazing. So.
Well, I'm glad you have an amazing cocktail. I have a cocktail that if I got it at a dive bar, because it was one of the specials, I would be pleasantly surprised, but never order again.
You would, if you tasted the Josh, you'd be like, you didn't put any of that shit that you just told me in this. Like, you'd be like, this is not what you said it was.
Well, I'll tell you right now, nobody who drinks this would know there's Coke Zero in it. So,
yeah, you sure about that? You sure about that?
No, actually, it's so weird. It tastes like a cocktail. Like, it doesn't taste like
I
Coke
believe you.
Zero
I believe
in
you.
it,
Yeah. That's crazy.
It's just,
All right, to get go ahead.
sesame oil is so aggressive. So it tastes so heavily smoky and sesame-y.
I mean, I'm sure that helps actually a lot to like cut through the Coke of it all. Yeah.
The Coke is
was a good idea.
overwhelmed by the sesame. Yeah, let's move
I
on.
will say, because I was trying to fix this before I landed on my fixed solution, I did pull out my jar of Trader Joe's sweet hot jalapenos because those are A, incredible, but also B, I was like, a little bit of that juice is like sweet enough where maybe I can do like a bar spoon and that'll be fine.
I have Trader Joe's sweet hot jalapeno, or not jalapenos, pickles.
Yeah.
They're not
Little
called
bit of
that
that juice.
specifically, but they're sweet hot pickles.
It's the same idea. Yeah.
I should just put a pickle on a skewer and threw it in there. That would have tied this
Might have
together.
worked.
A little bit of vinegar, just like tangentially.
Yeah, that's where my brain went first with this, and then I abandoned the idea when I was like, wait, I did that last week. 2 or 3 weeks ago. I like did the same thing to
I
bail
threw
out
one
of
of
the cocktail.
them. I put one of those pickles on my bacon, and I do think it's why the cocktail was balanced. So
Yeah, I was just like, man, good thought. Let's try to do it with the other ingredients. So salt was really, I think, the trick on this one, and the absinthe. But that said, we can move into Computer God finally. Our ragtag crew approaches the ship, and they're astonished to find it stacked beneath them, which pulls them into reflecting on the way that the Americani had to travel space. Hadrian tries to warn everyone else off of coming into the ship, considering his experience with Brethren, but they all refuse, even Polino and Alexander at the mention of Brethren and Vorgosos and everything else, and Sirin doesn't even question it as they step on board.
I don't know if this is what's being implied, but it's how I pictured it. I feel like they're walking on long gangways, like along tunnels, and Hadrian expected them to be stacked rooms. Like, the ship flies like this, for the person listening, not
Horizontal.
looking, like horizontal, like a hot dog.
Long.
But Hadrian expected them to fly like a shrimp tower. like,
Sure, yeah.
like long ways. Like, he would have seen the spaceships we have currently here on Earth that are erected and just expected that they just flew that way through space, but they fly long ways once they get going, and you sit weird whenever you launch out.
He expected a space shuttle, not a space rocket, and this is still a space rocket.
Yeah, it was still in like rocket era, and it's good to know that 150 to 250 years in the future, we're still playing Rocket League.
At best. Yeah.
At best.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, it's, I love and we're all playing it in the pyramids together with our cancer growing and we're all becoming one amorphous blob,
To actually drive the cars, and if we decide we're good at it, we are.
We are. It's very true. And the computer will be like, yes, you are good at it. And then will deliver us to our expected outcomes. We will be pleased and
Good
continue
job,
to.
small baby. Give me your organs. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very matrix coded in a lot of ways, but yes.
Can I be completely honest with you right now?
Yeah, right.
I'd probably walk into that pyramid.
You would, you think?
I'd like to believe I wouldn't. The guy in me who likes humanity and life and everything is like, no, hell no. But like, do you know how much I hate going to work?
I've read too much science fiction to walk into the pyramid. I would drown myself. I would walk into the ocean. I would swim until I couldn't swim anymore. Like, I would I'd choose death in a very different way, I think.
Yeah, I'd kill myself in the pyramid where I could live out all my fantasies.
No, I just think that to me, that sounds like a worse existence where someone else is controlling my fate. And I'm like, yeah, no.
I'm controlling my fate. I choose my dreams,
That's very true. I think I talked a little bit about this last week, so I don't want to belabor the point, but DJ McHale wrote this lovely series called The Pendragon Chronicles, of which there are 10 books of, and the fourth book is called The Lost City of Far.
First time you've ever brought them up.
This is definitely not the first time that I've brought them up on the podcast.
Up every goddamn episode,
yeah, I know. I've talked about them at the very least in the last 4 episodes, but in particular, The Lost City of Far is literally this pyramid idea. And I said that last week. And importantly, I think the book does a very good job where this book is distantly removed from the idea of being in the Matrix pyramid. That book is instead, you're there in the immediate moment and you can see people jack in and what that looks like. And it ain't pleasant. In terms of like what that looks like in the way that you degrade. And I think that the struggle that I would have more is like knowing that some of the people that I love would do it. And that would be my problem in addition to everything else. Like, how could you choose this? And this gets into like a whole separate problem with like the larger adoption of AI and things like that.
But like some people in my life have been like, you're way too into AI. I actually can't hang out with you. Whenever I say I think I would jack in, I think of like how dour society is now and how much worse it could get. I could see a world where like pleasant bliss is like the only thing outside of, like you said, walking into the ocean. So like I don't demonize the humans of the world at that time for choosing the easy out. Because like, damn, I'm like 20 years from choosing that same shit. As of right now, I'm more like a blow up the data center kind of a guy. But the day you can't really be a revolutionary anymore, then I guess you could just jack in. Like, there's so many generations of people in this lore and this people group that like you had kind of no other options. You could live the worst possible existence, or you could just like go live the best possible existence.
One assumes also this whole time that there are revolutionaries and revolutions and people fighting back and such. We're like 20,000 years at this point removed from this. Talking 200 centuries removed from this,
There's no way to know anything. Yeah.
There's no way to know anything. And also, like, all of that becomes a footnote. Like, this even history is a footnote of itself at this point. Like, not only are you the tiniest footnote in something if you were a person of whom chose that path or, like, chose the, like, path that I'm saying, but, like, you're not remembered. No one's remembered at this point.
Yeah.
The only thing that's remembered is the surviving winning party to some degree, which at this point is the Americani / the Empire, depending on,
Exactly. Which,
as those groups.
With that, I feel like resistance, as long as resistance is resistible. But like, there's this part of it that makes me think about the Matrix, obviously, as you should whenever you're thinking about this. And it's like, whenever I was growing up, I was like, obviously, I choose the pill that gets me out of the Matrix. And I'd go fight those alien fuckers. And like, the closer we get to the Matrix, the more I'm like, bro, I'm tired.
Well, and what's so I love that take for the record, because I think what's fascinating about people's reaction to Matrix Revolutions is that it is the bro, I'm tired reaction in a lot of ways. It's like this same thing continues on, repeats itself over and over again to the point where you don't recognize the same things repeating around you. I'm a full on stand for Revelations. Revelations.
The fourth one.
Revelations, the fourth movie. Yeah.
I have not seen it. I should.
In my opinion, and this is perhaps my most controversial take ever, it is my favorite Matrix movie.
So
it is not the best, but it is my favorite.
One of my best friends, Brandon, his favorite movies are the Matrix trilogy. And he's only seen
love the Matrix trilogy.
Revelations once. And he came home from the theater, and it's the only time he said, don't. And then he just like went to his room and like didn't talk for 2 days. So he hated it so much. And I don't know why, so it's all right. But yeah.
Yeah.
But it made me not go see it in theaters, and then I wasn't going to like seek it out after the fact.
I get that. I understand where he's coming from, but also I simultaneously can't help but view it as a work of genius in a different lens. You'll have to watch it. I
bet Hugh would view it different today
it.
too than when it came out. I think a lot of people would view it differently today than when it came out.
I think so. And I've even had friends of who were very sour on it, not change, but warm on it pretty substantially, in such a way where it's like, oh, yeah, I mean, now that I've thought about it way more, because like I left the theater angry or like I wasn't thinking about it in the moment, like I think I get it now. And yeah. So anyway, I don't want to sell anyone on not loving it, but my controversial take is like, obviously the Matrix movie changed the 2000s. It is the best of the trilogy, no question. It's not my favorite, or of the movies that exist. It is not my favorite. My favorite is the fourth. 4, 1.
That's crazy.
3, 2. But
damn, do you know what's fucking crazy?
What?
People are probably not going to like this either. 2 is my favorite.
A lot of people love 2. I really like 2, for the record. I don't think that there's like a, yeah. I mean, 2 is, I think, more dislike. Nah, 3 I think gets the most hate.
3 gets the most hate
until 4 came out. No, everyone hates 4.
But
like,
I was a 3 defender.
Yeah.
I just think that the whole, we can't talk about this too long. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. We have other robots to talk about.
The Agent Smith fight was terrible looking and was like a travesty of cinema, but not narratively bad. Mm-hmm. I don't have any problems with the narratives in 3.
As a book, Matrix would work perfectly, and the trilogy would work perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Their dreams just
if you look at the
realized.
movies also as movies, that movie looks bad. All right, moving on.
Yes. Yeah, agreed. That said,
I wouldn't jack into the Matrix. I understand the appeal.
I also understand why people would. I just could never. And I think especially with this pyramid offer,
I'm like, no, I wouldn't. I could. My life would be so much easier right now if I was just a Republican. But I'm not going to do it.
Well, exactly. I mean, if you want to talk about the grand design of the Americanii versus the Empire, like, but especially considering current politics, but like, yeah. That said, I do love that Christopher Rocchio in this brief moment when they walk into the ship also shits on postmodern design. I think that is one of the funniest lines that he secretly tucked into this, being as though they were at the end of humanity, calling something postmodern.
I loved it so much.
I so agree with this. I've agreed with this since like the idea and the general take has emerged in like the late. I love and have studied philosophy for most of my life and like a lot of different philosophical ideas. The general concept of post-capitalism, post-modernism, post-everything,
post-hardcore, post-rock, like everything.
That's become like the trend of like nomenclature is so trash and so garbage to describe.
I hate it so much. Yeah.
We're not post-capitalism. We're deep in capitalism. We're at a different stage. Like
end game capitalism, if anything. But even that, like
you can fucking you can call it all kinds of different things. But post-capitalism is not where we're at. You can't say. Yeah, there are so many problems that I have, but I love that Rocchio similarly shits on postmodern because like postmodern. In both philosophy, postmodernist philosophy as an idea and a concept as it's described is bad because it's as though it presumes that no philosophy could exist beyond it ever. And then also postmodernist design is the same way where it's like, what are we doing?
Maybe a historian could tell me if I'm right or not, but I just assume that like postmodernism or adjacent things has existed throughout society and things that are forgotten or renamed something else. I assume that if you go to like ancient Egypt, they maybe developed styles that went beyond where they were and were like, oh, this is like post God or whatever. Like, they wouldn't call it that, but there's some degree of like, oh, this is established society and this is the way the world will always be. And then we're doing things that go beyond it. And so we're so intelligent. And it's like, no, it's just the next thing. And that thing will also develop and change. And yeah, I totally agree with you. I don't like the term postmodern. I don't like the term post-hardcore.
Yeah,
I don't like the term post-capitalist.
Post-hardcore. Yeah.
I don't like the term post-rock. You're like, hey, no, it's some other shit. There's so many words.
Come up with a different fucking name. Yeah.
There's so many words. Just pick a word.
Yeah. Yeah.
This isn't rock. What we're doing is ruckus. You know?
Yeah, right. You know,
Cool.
you talk about post-hardcore. What's been fun to me is that like a lot of the post-hardcore bands, in quotes, have like changed into being like, oh, this is called easycore. Like there has been adaptations that remove them from that label, right?
You know
like,
what sucks is pre-post-hardcore, we got what is actually the douchiest fucking spelling and existence of a genre, but maybe the most accurate, which is nu metal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not post-metal. It's not saying that's metal and now we're post-metal. It's saying we're the new metal, but then we spelled
but
it
it also
with an
defined
NU.
a genre and an era, right?
Yeah,
And so like
I think new metal's actually not a terrible definition, even with its spelling. It's just saying, hey, we're what was metal in our previous era. We're new metal, but
and groups of time define themselves well in this way, and I think that's kind of the thing that Rocky was pointing out here is like other cultural movements he's been able to point out very obviously, very cleanly, and here he's like, this styling, I know what it is, and they called it postmodern, and they're so garbage for calling it that. He later calls out brutalist style. He calls out other things, and he's like, these are different elements. So it's like, and I mean within the section, and so it's just like, what the fuck are we doing here? It's like it's just millennial chic in a starship, I guess.
Yeah.
But
hey, you know, brutalism I don't actually fucking fuck with very much.
Oh man, I kind of like brutalism,
but I'll say it has a better name for sure.
yeah, I mean it communicates the idea, right? Like
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't hate
So
the broad idea of brutalism, but
Absolutely.
in general, I
mean,
like my home to be warm and inviting.
Yeah, homes are different than like architecture, right? So
Yeah,
that's like
yeah,
the idea. Like I would never want to live in a brutalist home, but I appreciate brutalist architecture.
But I will appreciate Gothic architecture above all else forever.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah,
You know,
agreed.
post-Gothic, that's fine. For literally anything that's not Gothic later, because that's where they peaked. That's the actual peak.
There you go. Yeah, everything is post-Gothic.
Even
Nothing
the
is,
Quiet are doing Gothic. Whenever they describe it, I'm like, that's just Gothic architecture.
well, crazy. So as Hadrian enters Horizon, he notices a flag with red and white stripes, but with a single white star inscribed on a blue circle in the center of the flag, before he continues deeper into the starship where they wake up Horizon. The machine asks a number of questions, including those about her children, before she tells us about her mission to settle Gleasy 422B.
To settle the Glussy? That's crazy.
A glizzy to settle glizzy 422 bitches to be designated Orlando.
There's so many glizzies, glussies, and bitches in Orlando.
I love that you're saying this. I do also want to mention that Gleasy, the planet 422b, according to NASA, is a Neptune-like planet. It's a gas giant, so unclear how they would have settled there at all, and or if it would have worked. Who knows?
They were
Also,
gonna
Rockio
show
could have
up
just been like, "That's a star." Yeah,
and do it.
right.
Well, I feel like, if they can turn people into people soup, then they can turn planets into planet soup. They could figure it out.
You want some extra facts about Glissy that I learned today?
Sure.
Glizzy,
why not?
the planet?
Yeah, dive in.
It's a red dwarf star.
You know what would
It's
be
got a
really
red dwarf
good?
star. Yeah.
I have to pee. Why don't I go pee while you just give the people
Go get a
their
hot
fun
dog?
facts?
Yeah, no. You go ahead. I'll give people their fun
Yeah.
glizzy facts real
We
quick.
don't
while
actually
you go
have.
pee.
We could cook.
Oh no, I'm gonna do this right now.
The fun facts.
Yeah, please enjoy. And Josh will not enjoy any bit of this. But a part of my favorite, the most interesting facts about this planet. So originally discovered in 2012. And then was rediscovered in 2020, which is an interesting thing, or like finalized from its documentation perspective from NASA. So that's when they were able to declare its existence. It orbits a red dwarf star. It's approximately 42 light years. And again, you can see I'm calling this all off the dome because I did read this all today and it's just there. 42 light years away from Earth. So within a reasonable distance, if we're thinking about Sun Eater time frame and timeline, the other interesting thing is the orbital period of it against its star is, I believe, 26 days. So it orbits so incredibly fast, 26 Earth days. So it fully makes a rotation around star so much faster. The gravity, I believe, is 0.13. So it is much lower, not more dense. Gravity numbers mess me up always. Is it 2 times gravity is lower? I think that it's actually a higher gravity. 0.13. So there's some very interesting facts there about Glissy.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
sure,
So
for everyone listening.
0.13 is the most important part of it, I think.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing that I want to repeat for you that's worthwhile is it orbits around that little red dwarf that it's orbiting about every 26 days. So it's got a very short orbital
slow
period.
little red light going on.
No, 26 days is fast. Like it's going all the way around the sun.
Oh, so it's like a raven there. It's like
It's fucking, it's going crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Crazy
All right.
planet. There's a lot of confusion as the group tries their best to continue to talk to the thing without feeding it too much information. Hadrian and Volca think that they're being clever and speaking Galstani around it, and it, through taking in all this different info and questioning, begins to speak to them in their tongue, which freaks everyone else out and asks where Gabriel is before she spills into a tirade prompted by Gibson that reveals from both Hadrian and Horizon the reality of Earth. In these pyramids, the people went to be hooked into machines, bloated corpses, fueling processing power to give them a sort of cancer that prolonged their lives as growths within this shape.
I always try and wonder if there's like little pop culture things that influence a person. Because we all grew up watching stuff and we're all inspired by the things that we grew up on. It is so different from, and yet I can't help but think about Bootstrap Bill whenever he becomes part of the ship and Jack Sparrow tries to get information out of him.
Yeah.
In the scene, especially with like the amorphous, like blending body parts into the thing that they're a part of. And then he keeps asking him questions. He keeps repeating
the ship,
himself,
part of the crew.
and then waking back up and being like, "Oh, who are you?" And like, that's a compliment to this also, because I absolutely love the first 3 Pirates of the Caribbean movies. But
totally,
yeah, I don't know. It has that kind of like, I don't feel like it's played super heavily that way, but it's implied within it that there's this almost like horror element to this repetition. It almost makes you feel safer as a reader, but there's this like thing of like, this thing has kind of lost it. It has arms all over the ship that we've established. We don't really know where we are. This is a creature of immense power that is lost within itself. What happens if it notices one of us? But we need it to notice us to get answers. And I think that there's like this like underlying terror there.
Yeah, for sure. There's also, I mean, this gets addressed a little bit later in terms of the sickness question, which I don't think I pointed out very directly here. But, 82% or something like that is necrotic flesh that it's connected to like process, right? So like Volca calls out that this being is senile that they're talking to in a lot of ways. So like there are elements of this that aren't perfect and that are like a little bit broken and disjointed. And simultaneously, we see none of that flesh, none of that processing power. And so it's so interesting to think about the fact that like this would land with people on it and then turn them into cancer to become a processing unit to continue to replicate itself and maybe the people. So they replicate and then continue to create the cancer that like births. It's the process of AI perpetuating itself in the context of the story is so different than anything else. Like the Matrix is adjacent, sure.
No,
but the
100%.
way this propagates itself is beyond.
I would say
this is true science fiction.
AI introducing itself as a cancer to humanity and then propagating itself until humanity's own individualism, humanity, artistic expression, or existence has been completely consumed by it is pretty much just what's going on. But, it's fine.
Right. Yeah, no, I don't disagree. There's a lot of like active feelings that I have that are problematic against the text. But yeah.
Yeah, but
because the text is pointing it out and it's more correct than it should be.
It's more correct than it knew it was when it was written.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that there is there's very interesting shit here where like Valka comes to call out like run diagnostics, and it's able to basically fix itself by like cutting off that biodiverse thing. But there's questions posed in this area that I don't know if they're answered, but I feel like there's implications that we can get from it, where it's like, how did the lights turn on? Why is the ship still functional after this much time? And it's because this, like, in my opinion, it's because it's being powered by this kind of like cancerous amalgamation that is still roiling to some degree, even if it's decayed beyond the ability to maintain the circuitry of Horizon. Like, it is still active to some degree and generating power to the ship. But
yeah, I don't know how much you know about like lithium batteries. Do you know? I don't want to like mansplain too much, but like,
do you know that the one with the bunny runs longer if he's playing a bass drum?
Sure. Okay, so in general, lithium batteries begin like a decaying life cycle every time you use them. So they gradually shrink over time. The more they use them, the more you charge them to full, the worse that it is. As long as you're consistently charging them to full,
but lithium batteries also charge them to like unused.
Correct. And they also like they lose total active charge and active possible charge if unused, right? So part of the reason that this story works as well as it does, especially with Horizon, is that this is not connected to an external power source. It is her feeding off of the life force of all of those people for so long, 100%. Right? And so like she's at 82% necrotic tissue. That is her at saying that she's at 18% battery life in a lot of ways.
She is
the battery life is
lithium
cancer.
Battery.
Right.
And the form of that battery is a million people.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So like that's some of the like underlying horror here that like the text doesn't immediately make obvious, but like is very clear when you begin to like even begin to infer the things that are disturbing.
This is one of those adaptation moments where like this should be adapted as if it was like an alien movie or something.
You know, like one of the things
at least
that
with the tenseness of Pandorum, which is a worse movie, but maybe more tense.
Definitely. I understand where you're going with this. I just feel like the thing that I would add as a layer, if I'm thinking about this from a writer perspective, is groaning, moaning. You know, like you want like a little bit of like, even if they're like in pleasure or otherwise, the idea of like some sound coming out of the people as they're plugged into the machine is horrifying in and of itself. And for comparison, you don't have to change anything with Brethren because they're all underwater to some degree. Right?
I've had an epiphany, and maybe it's already been said on this show, that I have decided who I want to adapt this series, or at least this book, if it ever is adapted.
Sure.
Jordan Peele.
Okay.
Think about how horrific the scene of Jean Jacket absorbing all those people.
I love your pitch. I want to say if we can only give a director one movie in this chronology, he's getting book 4. So,
well, I don't know book 4, Crossland.
I know you don't know book 4.
I don't know book 4.
I'm saying, who's your next pick is what I'm asking, realistically here. Because like if I were the EP and I know everything that happens, I'm not giving him book 3. I'm giving him book 4.
I mean, you definitely can't do it, and it's a terrible, terrible pull. Okay, so my first thought was Guillermo del Toro, but he should do Howling Dark.
For sure.
And then I was like, I don't know, for some reason. And he's 85 years old, and he's also a terrible choice. Like, what if Terry Gilliam did this movie?
Gilliam, holy shit! Hang on.
Hey, you know, what if the guy who did, I think
Brazil?
Monty Python and the Holy Grail,
Monty Python,
but also Brothers Grimm is what I was thinking of whenever I thought of it.
Yeah,
and then like some 12 Monkeys. Like, what if we just threw this guy at it? He's got one more movie left, I think.
And also he did the final Heath Ledger movie.
Yeah, Dr. Parnassus.
Yeah, Imaginarium.
What if we threw that guy at Demon in White?
I kind of like low key love that.
It's not a terrible pull. It's thoughtful. It could really backfire.
Yeah, man, again, I can look
And then
forward.
Robert Rodriguez gets fucking Lesser Devils for some reason.
Interesting. I like that pitch. Man, the people that you've laid out, I love the way that you've gone so far, and I know that you can't look forward. I would shuffle Gilliam, and maybe this is interesting for you from your perspective if you think about me rearranging directors here. I would give Gilliam book 6. I'd give him Disquiet Gods personally.
That's so interesting. That's going to be such a weird fucking quirky book.
Yeah, well, yeah, it should tell you something,
super
right?
fucked up.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of super weird that I said that, isn't it?
Who would you give this film to?
I
Demon in White.
think the trouble is that like Demon in White is the one that's most accessible
Is this
to
the
a
trouble
general
with
audience. This to me is, and we've talked about him a lot lately. We've talked a lot around the man. I think the Ridley Scott movie is Demon in White. I think that he is the man for this movie. And by contrast, just to put the big science fiction directors out there, I would give Denis Villeneuve Empire of Silence, and I would give
Danny is the only guy who could make that movie good.
James Cameron gets for those of you of whom have read further, gets Ashes of Man. Like if we're talking about like allocating the right people to the right movie from like the current slate of like existing historic incredible science fiction directors, I mean the Colosseum fights, the political drama,
I was
like
thinking
everything.
about Ridley Scott. I
Everything
just couldn't say Ridley
screams.
Scott,
Right. But also
But
it feels cheap. It feels cheap because we've talked about him so much, but like I can't help but say that like in my mind this is a Ridley Scott movie.
So far of the three I've read, Denny, Guillermo, and then Ridley is perfect.
Yeah.
I forget who you said you would put in number 2 because you said Guillermo.
I didn't think of Guillermo, but I love Guillermo. I'd take
For Howling
Guillermo for
Dark?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I love that idea. I didn't put anyone in Howling Dark because I was like, I love Guillermo, but I do think when we were talking about Howling Dark, I said someone else. I would also take Verbinski for Howling Dark. You mentioned Pirates, because he started in horror. He did A Cure for Wellness and some other things, and like, my God, that man can do horror in The Ring. He can do horror very well. So like, he could play that incredibly, but like, not a First Instinct. Guillermo's great.
I love the idea within Howling Dark of the horror being secondary to the beauty.
Yeah.
Which is what Guillermo
is. Guillermo. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right.
The only reason, just to give
keep
Guillermo,
going,
to give a Gore a little bit of a thing here. He spent a lot of his life, like almost a decade, trying to adapt BioShock, the first game, into a movie, a TV series, and otherwise. So he took a big career break, basically, to try and do that. And I think as such, the man has a very clear idea of sort of the idea of underwater claustrophobic horror. And so I think that could translate almost immediately into Howling Dark. Like, it's not underwater, but like there's water, there's the hands, there's everything else. I think the man could do it.
Now,
But
you've read a lot.
I prefer Guillermo, but
You've read a lot more of these than I have.
correct. At least 4 more.
Considering the books and the short stories,
Yep.
if you were going to give Baz Luhrmann one, knowing it would be a musical,
God.
who would it be? Short story, full story, doesn't matter, but it will be a musical.
No. Queen of Mid-Ashes. Queen of
Yeah,
Mid-Ashes.
Baz Luhrmann's Queen of Ashes. Whenever he gets down there and he sees her in her bunker, oh my God, what a
You just
scene.
start getting the snap song and you get like a little bit of a
jazz. Yeah.
You motherfucker. Yeah, right.
Exactly, yeah. I think Queen is a great decision, and I think he would make the snake bone pit terrible.
So, as we mentioned, Valka throws this thing into a recovery mode, and a number of arms activate, and there's this sort of like horrific moment as Hadrian reflects maybe that this is similar but different to Brethren and the experience there, pulling out and holding up an almost angelic spirit, a woman flickering in space, projected like a hologram from one of these arms. From there, she's interrogated for further answers and is dodgy at best as she answers honestly about what, where, and why she is here and how they were overtaken by warp drives of the Empire. It's a fascinating little bit, you know? Hadrian paints this woman as an angel, which is interesting.
There's some weird there's some weird stuff in this spot. The way how Rocchio directly describes Horizon and the way how Hadrian views Horizon makes me think that Rocchio has very strange taste in women. Because he's like, she's like so small, but then her limbs are like, she's like plebeian in the body, but her limbs are like palatine. I think he just likes really long-limbed women, arms and legs, and because then he keeps being like, she's like a terrible angel, and I'm like, that's terrifying to me. But
instead, does that mean that the people that we're seeing are longer and weirder than we understand?
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Maybe like their torsos are extended.
Human adaptation has changed, you know? Right? Like, yeah.
I did have that thought as well. But all that's to say, this is definitely not Cortana.
Definitely not.
Certainly not a hot, naked digital lady explaining everything as she's integrated with the ship.
Definitely not. I do think that this is the best Cortana that I've read, and I've read most of the Halo books. So, and none of them, like Cortana, obviously, as a character, and some of the other AIs are great within this book. So I'm not actually besmirching the writers or otherwise. But like the idea of approaching Cortana from zero here is fascinating, right? And I do understand, again, he's a child of our same generation. And so the intrigue of Cortana is fascinating and is interesting. And especially from a Gene Wolfe-like cloak. And I know that you're unaware of Gene Wolfe, but he is a guy of whom wrote a fantasy science fiction series. And part of the allure is you don't really know what he's describing in the moment. And you begin to understand those things as context arrives, and you begin to like understand that it's actually closer to reality than it is the past. But the descriptions are so strange that you have no idea what's happening. Similarly here, Rocchio is guising that this is a projection or a hologram.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
There's also like moments where, we have to jump back a little bit to talk about this.
Yeah. Hit it.
Before the hologram hits is my personal favorite part of the section and one of my favorite like individual pieces of imagery of this book. And again, I've talked about it on this podcast enough. You, Crossland, know this. You, the listener, probably do by now. I'm more of a fantasy boy than I am a sci-fi boy.
Right.
Hadrian's imagination of this creature they're talking to as a blind old woman by the campfire is fucking beautiful. So evocative. That brought me right in. And then whenever he asks the question and just the code on the screen freezes, he says he could imagine those blind eyes turning towards him to look him in the eye. Like, that's so good. And then whenever this creature does come to life in hologram form, it's this grotesque angel as like, it's beautiful, but it's also strange. But it has these blaring white eyes, just like the ones that Hadrian imagined on this blind woman by the campfire, that do shift towards him whenever he asks questions. And I think it's just like, it is like, there is an intenseness and a danger to this creature, even if nothing ever happens with it.
I love that you call that out, especially because I think over the weekend or otherwise we talked about some of the other things that like Rocchio has done, which includes like a full set of novellas of a fantasy series. And I think that Rocchio, especially at this point, at the end of the series, knows this. But I think his brand of writing is more immediately graded towards fantasy than it is sci-fi, which is also why his sci-fantasy works so well, because like it blends the two together so fantastically. But like, can you imagine the same thing, but you're experiencing it and like that character is on a drug trip or something like that and imagining the woman turning her head or something? Like this is so adjacent to other versions of a science fiction or of a fantasy story, but like through a very different lens.
100%.
Yeah.
This is a small side tangent, very quick. I have always said that my favorite songs by the heaviest bands are their ballads. And my favorite songs by like the grooviest, softest bands are their like intense ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like my favorite song by Death Cab is probably
For the record,
like Expo 86. It's not a heavy song, or like Crooked Teeth. Like these are their more aggressive songs. But like my favorite songs by like Under Oath tend to be like Salmoneer or something like that, you know. Like
think about Metallica. Like one of the most popular songs is One. Like one of their most popular songs is One. And that's the ballad. That is like their ballad.
And so I legitimately believe my favorite sci-fi novel written would probably be by Joe Abercrombie if he ever does one. And I really think Rockyo could write my favorite fantasy novel. It's just like
that's
it's
sick.
that taking that like ideal from something else and then crossing it over always makes an elevated piece of media, but it's harder on the artist, you know?
For sure, or it feels dissonant in a lot of ways. But I think the reality of what I'm saying is that I think dissonance for Rocky is writing in science fiction. Like,
and it's why I really like him. Yeah.
The man wants to write fantasy so badly, clearly, and like it comes through in so many different ways.
Oh man, we're going to get
so
some
excited.
Fantastic elements later in this chapter.
Well, right, yeah, we just continue to go down that, right? Like even the idea of like demons being like AI, like man, the man balances sci fantasy in a way that like no one else does. There's these
ruins are getting younger
like
while
this.
you're getting older.
Yeah, true.
Maybe that it has grounds in sci-fi or science, but that's fucking fantasy to me, baby.
Yeah, right. I do love that demons also view themselves as progress within the context of the story here, but also failed to really build past present human technology, meaning like the warp drives, right? Like they couldn't develop themselves forward enough to like develop warp drives, so they were surprised, and instead they become consumptive creatures of themselves. They cannot invent past humanity. They can only like hit the echelons of the highest tier of the people that they took in at the time instead of being inventive. And that reminds me of modern generative AI.
Very much
in the worst ways.
I agree with you 100%. However, I will say that there's a secondary aspect to it, whereas there is a specific saying, I can't remember, but essentially need is like the spark of innovation.
Sure. I think it's desire, something.
But it's
I'll
not
come
desire.
to it.
It's like it's like you have to need something to innovate. If the AI weren't concerned about time and they just had to get places, but they have cured death in the sense of longevity, 10,000 years later, they're still alive, then why would they innovate to get there faster? Time is not something they're concerned with. You know, so it's like they have the technology they need to get to a place, whereas humanity will invent the warp drive because we want to get there while we're still alive.
Sure. Yeah, time, man, that's such a factor of this level of the story too. But also, like, we understand that, like, at the moment, they can comprehend end time, we'll say, to some degree, and simultaneously also still can't invent the warp drive. You know, like they're blindsided. So like that's where my like constraint comes in from a view perspective.
They're like leveled by intelligence, but also like their idea of what they should do is determined by what they knew they should do back then.
What they can do, what they're capable of.
Yeah, it's like I don't know that they're not capable of advancing that, because they can literally. Humans didn't teach them how to reach out across the stars and communicate with the quiet.
Yeah. I think we should read this, and we can continue onward, and then we can talk about it a little bit more. But Horizon is confronted on how it is captured, and answers that William Alexander Henry Windsor was the one who caught it, and that it was helped, and it classifies this as an other interference before it answers, time is an illusion, an artifact of human consciousness, way of perceiving the higher dimensions of physical reality that your limited minds cannot comprehend. Time is only another kind of space through which things move. Your kind moves forward only toward what you call the future. There are other kinds that move backward, kinds that move sideways, kinds that do not move at all. We are made in your image and move with you, but can see farther and the interference cannot move, but speaks across time, directing the flow to its own end.
Were they in the past or the future or the next or the side or the... Is the future just Hadrian once he rises to godhood?
Dude, what do you want me to say? Like, you're just
Yes
spitting
or
things.
no? Just yes or no?
Well, I'm not here to answer that question. The story is here to answer that question. But we know at the end of the story, Hadrian is sitting in Colchis, writing this down, about to be executed, right? Like, he is at the end of his life to some degree.
The physicality that represents what was once Hadrian. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
No, Gibson specifically brings up some stuff later that makes me think about like
Right.
godhood and everything, but we're going to talk about that later. This is a great moment, but I do think that this is where we start to get the idea that we're dealing with beings. I mean, we already knew that we're dealing with beings that exist within reality differently than us and have their own set of rules and like move through reality in a way that we can't comprehend. This begins to set the stage in my mind for like the godhood of the beings that we're dealing with.
Sure.
And then Gibson calls it out specifically.
Correct. But also Horizon says, I mean, like, this is near the end. God, a primitive concept. It is a being of greater power. You imagine it creating worlds, shaping the cosmos. It can do these things, but it is not the only one that can. We can. Are we gods? And I love that distinction. I love that idea. And I think
I love that, but
critically
also
important to the series.
I think that godhood differs significantly throughout history and throughout culture.
Of course.
And I think that the type of god that the Quiet just inherently is like a mythological god of old.
But do you think it's a god, or do you think it's
if I put
alien
myself, what's the fucking difference? I watched Thor. Anyways,
Okay. Yeah.
I think so heavily, like,
Thor as an example. Love it. You're right.
about what's the first line in the Thor movie, the first Thor movie?
Oh my God. It is like a narrative line delivered by Odin.
The ancients called us gods,
Yeah.
and now you think it's science. Where I come from, they're one and the same.
Okay, hang on. Once mankind accepted a simple truth that they were not alone in the universe is the first line. That's it.
Oh, yeah, that line continues throughout the opening segment, and it eventually
want
leads
more?
to,
Sorry.
like, are you gods or are you aliens? And he says, like, essentially gods and magic and science, where I come from, they're one and the same. Whatever.
Okay, yeah. All right, hang on. Once mankind accepted a simple truth that they were not alone in the universe. Some worlds man believed to be the home to their gods. Others they knew to fear. From a realm of cold and darkness came the frost giants, threatening to plunge the mortal world into a new ice age. But humanity would not face this threat alone. Armies drove the frost giants back into the heart of their world. The cost was great. In the end, their king fell, and the source of their power was taken from them. With the last great war ended, we withdrew from the other worlds and returned home to the realm eternal, Asgard. Here we remained as a beacon of hope, shining out across the stars. And though we have fallen into man's myths and legends, it was Asgard and its warriors brought peace to the universe. But the day will come when one of you will have to defend that peace. And Loki,
Yes.
Thor. Yada, yada.
The gods and science line is later in the movie for sure. As I was thinking about it.
Much later
it's
and
while
or in
he's-
the third movie?
No, it's while he's chilling on the trailer. Not the trailer of the movie.
That
but-
is, yep, right, yep.
Anyways,
Yeah.
all that to say, I think that the idea, whenever
Thor
you're
stan,
dealing with science fiction, there is like a blending of like, okay, did these creatures create, like with Marvel, for example, did like the Celestials create the universe? Yes. Are they gods? Well, technically, yes. Like,
Kind
yes.
of. Yeah. In a way, yeah.
So I think
Are
that,
gods,
like,
sure.
even if you are a person who exists today who is very interested in mythology or in like pagan ideology or in like religions outside of Western religions, I think you're still, I don't want to say tainted by, but like your view is directed, you're predisposed to the idea of a god based on a Western religion that is predominant globally at this point.
Correct. So, I want to ding that bell real quick. I just want to ring that bell really hard right here to call it out, being like, a lot of people can read a lot of things into a lot of stories, and often the clearest thing that they read into stories is the most obvious to them because it's the way that they were raised and politically socialized and otherwise. And so they ring that bell as hard as they can. But that does not mean that that is what the story is saying. And it's an important difference, an important reference point is one needs the mental fortitude, the ability to research, the ability to think, to divorce from the easiest answer.
100%. Yeah.
Which is the most obvious one a lot of the time. Anyway.
So to me, what this is saying is if you consider godhood in the grand scheme of what godhood has meant through the mass majority of human existence and across different cultures, there are few comparatively like monotheistic cultures. So
very few.
What Horizon explains in this next section is polytheism. And it's the idea that there are multiple higher intelligences that exist beyond our understanding that have formed and guided the galaxy. Or the galaxies, the universe.
And they're competing. Yeah.
And she's like, that's not God, though. And I'm like, no, that's not the American God you would have been trained on as an Americani intelligence. But that is what godhood is. So, like, I don't think Gibson is so wrong whenever he says, like, our prayers were answered. Is that a God? Because what is a god if not a guiding force beyond our understanding out there in the cosmos?
Yeah, it's a question for a lot of people, I think, of because especially the way that people ingest stories these days, it's a question of, are we talking lowercase g or capital G God to some degree?
These are lowercase g gods, but these are still gods.
And it's science fiction to such a degree that we should make sure that we take the time to interrogate its more complete nature than the easy cherry picking nature. And Josh, I'm just going to level with you a little bit here. The final book, you've seen it, the cover, right? You've seen the cover.
I've seen
the man is
a god
Hadrian himself
with probably a capital G at that point. Yeah,
kind of looks like he's on a cross, right? A little bit like he's on a cross. He's
I've
Adrian
compared
Marlowe.
him to Jesus like four times.
He's got like we've done that over the course of the story. Yeah, right. And I'm not trying to remove connotation because I think some connotation is relevant and necessary, and also like some of those things can inform stories in an interesting way. But simultaneously, considering the rest of this story, if that's the only thing you can bring to the table in the rest of the context of the story, you've got no fucking clue about anything else outside of the like most base Christian ideals. So the reason I'm mad about it, for the record, is that when the final book came out, the whole series, by some fucking asshole in Amazon, got shifted to like Christian science fiction. And that is a bullshit fucking claim. And that has nothing to do with the quality of the rest of the books.
This section tells you this is not Christian.
Oh, it tells you innately, at the very least, like it's not monotheistic. It tells you so much more than that. But like people read so far into the ideal that they were like, oh, okay, so this is like right next to the Left Behind series. And it's like, motherfucker, if you read it this far and you didn't catch the drift, you were too dumb to have caught the story.
Find out it's like pro LGBTQ and figure out that this is like absolutely positive towards science over religion, even if it supports
literally is.
religion. Like,
Yeah, right.
Rakio
It
is
also-
religious, but Rakio, I assume, based on his writing, comes to his own religion through a scientific standpoint, and probably disagrees with a lot of like the overarching higher church, I guess. Because I have a lot of Christian friends that I agree with very much so, who are like, my beliefs aren't tied to like the organization. They're tied to like my culture and history and understanding. And then also I believe in science. Rakio does not seem like someone who dismissed science.
No, not even slightly. So
In
yeah,
fact,
I
he's
guess
the most scientific author I've ever read.
I guess that's just kind of the credence that I wanted to make sure that I introduced to some degree is like, it's crazy from this point, and considering the context of this chapter, to like step back and be like, yeah, no, this guy is just like really into God. Like, that's it. This is all. And this whole section and everything going forward, and I'm not spoiling, and I will not, but like, gods are a multifaceted point of access to the story. Like, it is very fantasy code in that way. Like, grow the fuck up. Like,
I would say
don't know.
this section should make you genuinely consider if the Quiet are God. And then I like the
Which is
answer.
important. Yeah.
There are multiple of these intelligences. This
Forces.
is just the one that's turned their attention to you. So this is a God. There are gods in the universe, and they are just beings beyond our understanding. And did they create this universe, and are they guiding it? A little bit, yeah. But are they what like the primitives thought of as God? No. And I like that this exists here. Yeah.
Yeah, and simultaneously to that point, it also again says like, what's the exact line? Probably not, but it was actually right on. God, a primitive concept. It is a being of great power. You imagine creating worlds, shaping the cosmos. It can do these things, but it is not the only one that can. We can. Are we gods? And, not that far off, though. Like, what's the concept of godhood? What is... How do you define a god in any
I guess
context?
we like a little bit slipped over Valka being like, hey, run diagnostics, figure yourself out. Maybe we mentioned it, but like now we're here. This is the more interesting thing, and I think that's the most interesting thing about this section. How do you define godhood?
And like the Quiet as this empathetic force that like it interprets it as towards humanity versus like something that could keep humanity without decay, and the way that looks, free from death, immortality, and otherwise, as we compare the AI taking over versus this God in the Quiet.
Well, there's also a very interesting thing in here where it's like at the end of the chapter, we'll get to it, and like I guess right now is kind of a time to bring that up, but the idea of this like weird matrixy solution where humans live in dreams they choose, but then their bodies just grow tumors exponentially as they reform into each other to become an amalgamated mass of flesh. Yeah. Fuck that. That's horror. That's terrible.
Terror. Yeah.
But is that not godhood? To like take energy and form it into lives for people.
It is kind of a godhood of sorts, right?
And then guide them. Like, people ask for lives and you answer their prayers. That's what they're doing.
You give them
like,
their dreams. You give them their dreams.
People live the dreams they choose, which means that they had to deliberately give each of them a dream. People prayed to them and they gave it to them.
a sanctification in some way.
Exactly,
a sanctification in some ways of like the idea of literal manifestation in one's mind, right? In interference. That becomes something more, and that's not to say anything of the interference in like capital letters as it's defined by Horizon. Yeah, man. I mean, this is a philosophical chapter in the best way in so many different ways. You could take this and you can tear it apart and you can contemplate the ways in which
I would say there's not really new information here from what we got from Brethren and other things. but this is the first time I considered that maybe I would have been weak enough to like go in that fucking pyramid, as I mentioned.
We do get new information here. I don't want to downplay the importance of this chapter, because there are components here that are particularly important, like the fact at the end here, and I've got one more quote that I want to read that's a little bit further back here, but the fact that the reality of the quiet is that they're running backwards through time. They're running the other way against time.
Yeah.
That's massive. It's a massive reveal. And also this additional information of like, is this one entity? Are there competing entities? What's the deal going on there?
That's a massive reveal, but that's also a reveal that was already given to us, and the fact that we already knew that the quiet existed forward in time and were speaking back to us.
We did know that, but we didn't understand
ruins were moving backwards through time and everything.
Right. Something is progressing in a different direction, which is.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read a lot of fantasy. I've read a lot of science fiction.
It's so hard for me to comprehend.
I've not read anything like the Quiet Ruins. You know, like even within the couple of chapters.
Them looking for the newest ruins because the oldest ones is hard for me to put my brain around.
The newest ruins, the most recent ones are going to be the oldest, and well, not exactly because like,
but also when we find them doesn't have to do anything with when they were there. So you have to find the youngest ruins, not the newest ruin.
Correct. The youngest / depending on the way that you're looking at it, the oldest ruins. Yeah. Rockio actually clearly with his editor negotiated this properly where it shouldn't be mentally frustrating, but simultaneously it is a head scratching amount of.
It's so mentally frustrating to me.
Oh
not
my God.
Not in a bad way, but like,
no.
I had to stop multiple times and be like, wait, would this one be younger or older?
I do think this is, I hate the idea to some degree, but like there are moments in which books obviously deserve diagrams, and this is why maps exist. This is why other things exist. And Rockio does as well as he can physically with words, and I think he does well. I don't think you need anything more necessarily to understand this instead of repetition and like beating it into your head. But like a little diagram of like an inverted chart of like two line graphs against each other, being like oldest, newest, and then the inverted states to like show that like what that looks like on a plotted chart for us fucking mortal humans that are trying to interrogate the story, I think is a good thing, because more often, I mean, I know, and I've studied, and I did at a very young age study a decent amount of quantum physics, so I'm very aware of a lot of the concepts that Rockio is interrogating here. However, I cannot assume that of most other people, and would not assume that of most other people. And so this becomes like a very difficult, not quantum physics equation, but more like time isn't the variable that you humans think it is, and now I need for you to consider it differently. Which is also simultaneously part of the brilliance of this, because Rockio basically takes a layer of physics and says that it's next to godliness to some degree. He's like, gods wouldn't give a shit about time. This god or these gods wouldn't give a shit about time.
Well, and that's the old saying, right? Like chemistry is next to godliness, or
yeah, that's it.
Oh, cleanliness is next to physiology. Something around there.
Yeah, biology is cleanliness is.
Next
I don't know.
to, like,
do I sun my perineum in the park at 6 a.m.? Is that the idea?
Oh, sorry. It's necromancy is godliness.
Yeah,
necromancy,
right. But
breeds godhood. Yeah.
Okay. Necromancy, but if you summon the demon from the Lords of Hell and he still can't break your bond with the Pope, like,
then
you're probably fucked.
You're
right?
fucked, my guy.
Yeah.
You might as well just go all in. Oh my god.
Yikes.
Crossland. We're going to move on right this second. But I'm sure I talked to you about it a little bit, but we got a reading
You said my full name. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
We got a reading from the next book. I don't know where it happens in it whenever I saw Joe Abercrombie. But from The Heretics, I believe it's called.
Yeah. Yep.
We got a segment. And it's just
Was it good?
Balthazar is full bought in because there's no out. He's he's just the most brutal fucking best
I am
tool the
so
church
excited.
has. It's
That
just
man,
him showing up
best
and
character.
killing a bunch of necromancers because they disappoint and embarrass him with their poor spells, and he's just like given basically his full powers at this point. Because why would he
Because he's
fight
fucking
back?
in. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so sick. That next book is going to be. If Joe has taught me anything, it's that if the first book is anything to go on, just elevate it.
Read the second book
exponentially.
and it's going to be fucking incredible. Yeah.
And The Devils is better than any of his first books he's written, in my opinion.
I mean, yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean,
We don't have to dive into it.
I-
It's fine. I fucking love The Devils. I think no book has, for my own
I like a little
particular-
hatred more, but that's on me. But yeah.
For my particular taste, no book has scratched all my itches more than The Devils ever,
Sure.
maybe, as an individual
Well,
book.
Okay, if we're talking about individual books, I would say the same thing, but about Best Served Cold, Buddy. And I do feel like for a lot
Which
of
is
people, people,
is where I thought you were going to fight me, because that's an agreeable comparison.
I'm not calling it the first book, though. That's my thing. I'm not calling it a first
I would
book.
say
It's its own
Best Served
book.
Cold and The Devils, in my opinion, are duking it out for his
They're
best
singing the
standalone.
same tune. Yes, for sure.
As Last Argument of Kings and Wisdom of Crowd are duking it out for his best book in my brain. But
Crazy, because I would say it's Trouble with Peace and yeah, Before They're Hanged, but that's fine. We don't need to get in this individual conversation right now.
moving
But also my favorite book is Best Served Cold by him, period. It's not even close.
it's
but
so good.
I get it. But to the point, though, for a lot of people, this is why I recommend The Devils, is because it is a taste of all of that, and it is Best Served Cold adjacent.
Oh my god,
and
it's
it
his
feels like
best
that.
hits record. You're like, yeah, if you listen to the
Yeah.
whole record of any one of these records he put out, it's probably
But if no-
better all around, but there's more hits and misses.
If no one knows the record, they're just signing
Listen
up
to
for
the
a
best
banger.
hits so
Yeah,
you know it's
right,
good. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you're getting everything in the
Greatest
moment.
hits.
Yeah,
Greatest hits, yeah.
right. I understand what you're going for, but it's it's very good. To the point, though, here, Horizon. Oh man, I can't. Hang on. One more quote. It continues. It cannot exist if we do. It is contingent, being in what you call the future. Our actions prevent it from being and may destroy it. And then proceeds to explain its moral philosophy on preservation that has led it to this point, keeping humanity without decay, free from death, inequality, and more via cancer and other things. That line, man, I need your read on it. It's one sentence.
I mean, the singular thing that I can't stop thinking about is it cannot exist if we do. It is contingent. I don't know if that means that humanity flourishing brings about a universe that allows the quiet to come into existence, or if that means that maybe the quiet also needs humanity as a resource, and if that resource is already filled up. I don't know if we're between two gods that want to consume us, or
One
if
is
there's one
AI.
god freeing. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, the AI already told us that our end game is to become God. Within this chapter, in a second, which we'll talk about, but
Yeah.
that is there are two like very standout lines here, and it is, it cannot exist if we do, it is contingent, and then also, to what end? And then that end being to be like them, specifically referencing the anomaly or whatever it's called to them, the interference.
Interference. Yeah.
So the AI wants to be the interference. They start farming humans to become so. The interference needs humans and must have the humans defeat the AI. That, and to me, implies the interference needs the humans so that they can fuel their own existence in some way or another. But who's to say? Because they're an existence so beyond our own understanding that, like, the physical need might not be there, but maybe the cognitive need, the moving through time need, I don't know. But if the Americanii consume all of humanity into themselves and they become gods themselves, then the interference or the quiet never gets to exist. And they already exist at the end of time, so they're forming the world that allows them to exist. It's heady as shit, but it does seem like both of them are feeding on humanity to some degree.
Sure, yeah. It is a conundrum of momentous question, right? Like,
do I want to break free of our past oppressors to feed our future oppressors, or feed our past oppressors to starve our future oppressors?
Or
Either
is the
way,
future
we're
inevitable?
consumed.
Like, what the fuck do we do? Like there's so many questions that surround this idea of a being outside of time, or any beings that are outside of time, as is mentioned by Horizon here, which I think, like, I think you downplayed the significance of this section to some degree, but I do think that the concepts here are obviously, like, as we're talking about it, like, you're back online, in my opinion, with where my brain is, which is like, there is almost an impossible amount to quantify here by the way that this story opened, which is the concept of time being an element. It cast backwards, or an element in a way that is not something that is normally anticipated in a story, right? Like the idea of a civilization aging backwards, and like to aging backwards to become real in the present. That's fucking wild. There's nothing like that. There's nothing like that. I've never read anything like that. I've read so many series. I've never read anything.
The implication is if humanity got there like hundreds of thousands of years earlier, they would have just found a full ruin, or like a full civilization.
Well, no. They would still have to be late, because it's not there until the end of time.
They're only getting the newer ones. You're right. They're getting younger.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so weird.
The oldest things are showing up now. The oldest things are showing up now. So the older it is,
because the farther they
present now,
the younger it'll get. Yeah. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Isn't that crazy though? It's crazy. It's literally like, there's nothing like that, man. There's nothing like that.
Whenever they get to the planet, they're worried it hasn't risen out of the sand yet, you know?
Correct. Yeah, they're literally like, man, it's been marked and we've seen these ruins everywhere else, but also simultaneously, like, what do we do? To round out a little bit with Horizon here, and then we can end this chapter, of which we've spent more than we expected, but not that much more.
Pretty right in it, yeah.
Yeah. Horizon, through all its questioning, is unaware of what the Cielsen are and is unable to help, as it mimics Valka's language. Tavarosi, of course, that until then had been guised their questions effectively between the two of them. But this does lead to a really interesting part of the conversation, as it reveals it knows many of the locations of the Quiet Ruins because it has studied them, interacted with them, potentially predicted them. There are so many interesting questions here. But also that they are not ruins in the future, but are sites moving back in time, as we talked about. The important part here, obviously, we just talked about them moving backwards, but the Cielsen being non-existent in their understanding of things.
Time is highways. God is a Waymo who can only drive south. Traffic is going north. Birds are soldiers.
Cielsen are taxi drivers. I don't know, based on your analogy. Where are we going here?
Cielsen
are
are
cacti?
Cielsen are tractors that get hijacked by people who want to destroy the road. And at the end of the day, the most important thing is that buildings get younger as they age, you know?
Yeah, very fair. Very fair.
Yeah.
All right, well, that was a very intense first half of the chapters. With that, we'll return to the late goodbye. Get a real quick debrief that Tor and Ariane ordered the doors shut and to never be opened again, as the Chantry would likely blow up the moon were to find out about Horizon's existence. But also a note on the history on how their power has grown considerably since Gabriel's day. To this day as well, Horizon slumbers, which Hadrian notes in that foreign hall. Which just gives me like big like dragon vibes. It gives me very big like smog on like a mountain.
Oh,
you know?
100%.
Like,
it's also the fact that like he has still put his ear against those gearwork doors in the time he spent here towards the end of time. Like after
And yet
all of this,
Smaug is still there. Yeah.
he goes to check and he's like, I don't hear anything, and that's good news, you know. And
Yeah.
Eugene's like, probably died. That would be nice. Maybe not. I like that through all of this. Hadrian, half-mortal, Sun Eater, God,
Paranoid. Yeah.
still like afraid of other shit. You know?
Still a little fucking guy in a big soup of planets and people and gods and
I think it shows us
forces
how fucking
and
scary
races.
the Americanii are actually. Like how close they actually got to godhood.
Yeah.
That's what that
Yeah,
tells
I mean,
me. Is that if the Quiet could be considered gods with a lower G, the Americanii didn't get there, but they were on that path if they weren't
right.
struck down, you know?
Yeah. I also can't help but think like one of the things that this book does so well, and Josh, I feel like we're a victim of this in our conversation, and that's intentional and it's well done, is man, we barely have thought about the Cielson threat. We barely have thought about the primary antagonists of the story for a while now. Like we've been fully submerged in a completely different side tangent. And it's like, oh, by the way, Doriaika is right there. I'm going to read a quote here in a minute here, which is directly about Sirianni, but like, my God, like this book does such a good job distracting us for so long.
And it is the threat to humanity. However, I do feel like, and maybe I will be proven so wrong, I feel like this Cielson are the immediate threat, whereas this like existential threat is the thing that keeps propping up the Quiet.
Sure.
The
Yeah.
Americanii. Whereas we're like, it's kind of like Game of Thrones. It's like, oh, well, like the North and the South are at war, but like winter is coming, even though they're the pale. Sorry, the
Slash the dragons exist. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Dragons exist and the winter is here. We should be worried about that, but we're at war. So it's like the Americanii and the Quiet seem like the real threats. Whereas like
Totally.
the Cielson and the humans are the ones at war. Before we jump into whatever you're going to say, because I feel like it's going to be very important, I just want to say that this book, Demon in White, is the one I've probably physically read the least. And whenever I have, I've read it with a dust cover. But I took it down to the pool recently, and whenever I take a book out of the house, I remove the dust cover. I did not realize how fucking cool it is that Demon in
To be
White
white.
is a white book with a white front and a white back and a white spine.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck? It does say Demon in White and white on the white spine, but that's so sick. That's actually just so sick.
You know, it's a subtle thing, especially because the rest of the series, in most book series, like do identical framings, right? Like they do identical books.
But the other ones don't look like that. I read Howling Dark and I read Emperor of Silence. They're like normal dust covers that have like a book with the logo and the writing like visible. You know?
I think the only other two that do it are Ashes of Man, I think is white, and I think Shadows Upon Time is white. But they're not as white as Demon in White. Demon in White like breaks the trend. But the point being is it's like a...
That's just a white book with a white spine. I told Leslie, I was like, if I take this to the pool and I read this, people are going to think I'm fake reading a prop book from a model home. Like, it doesn't look like I'm reading. This isn't a book. No book looks like this. This is crazy. This is a fake fucking book. But I love it so much. And I showed it to everybody who came to my pool party. I was like, look at this. And I explained it. And I explained that this is called Demon in White. And also the main enemy in this book is called the Pale. And this is just the sickest book cover I've ever seen. But
yeah, and they're like... Most hardcovers try to aim to match themselves against the rest of the collection, right? And this fucking book series is like, nope, we're going black, black, white, black, white, black, white. Good fucking luck, buddy. You know, like
crazy.
None of this shit
and
matches.
it's also just the white text on the white. Like, look, look at on the camera. Maybe you can see it. Maybe you can't. I don't know.
And Shadows Upon and Ashes of Man do different colors on the white against white. So, like, that's also a fun thing. Like, each of those texts are different. So, like, it's so thought through. From,
but the white
at the very least,
on
his
white
perspective.
is insane. For
White on white
Demon
is so
and white.
cool. Yeah. Especially for the third book. Like, black, black, white. through the back of the book. Sick.
Especially if this was supposed to be the halfway point.
Yeah. Yeah, the break point. Yeah.
A wild book. And a wild book
sure.
cover. Yeah. Very, very happy with the design on that.
So, considering, after all of this, Hadrian announces that it's time for everyone to leave, and Hadrian has one last opportunity to say a real heartfelt goodbye to the man who raised him. Gibson first cracks off with a joke about Hadrian not losing his head as he sort of like scrounges his head and like gives him a little ruffle. In the intervening years as he's progressing forward, they reflect that in every way that this is probably the last time, as Gibson likely won't live long enough, and Hadrian won't likely ever come back here to see him. This is likely the end of their relationship. Almost certainly.
I am 98% convinced that this is actually Gibson.
Wait, what do you mean?
2%
You
of me
don't
thinks
think that
this
is Gibson?
a weird, quiet vision sent back through the past, amalgamated into a homunculus.
But he doesn't have the green eyes. We've seen the green eyes. We've seen.
You're right. Okay.
You know. Yeah.
No, yeah. This is Gibson. It's a really nice moment.
But do you think that this is the last time we're going to see Gibson? Is this the end of Gibson?
I was shocked I saw Gibson this time. I think this is the last
Sure.
we see Gibson. If we do see Gibson again, it will be a fun reveal, and I will be very happy. But if we see Gibson again in a different book, I will be shocked.
Okay.
If we see Gibson again in this book, it will not be good, and it will be in a very negative way.
Sure. Okay.
But this is a really nice scene. Hadrian doesn't get a lot of these moments that are just purely positive. And it's it's bittersweet because it's a goodbye, but like he gets to say goodbye to the person he has spent the last 100 years wishing he got a chance to say goodbye to on good terms, being told that he's made him proud. Like, he gets to tell a man he's his father. Like, this whole scene is just like very healing for Hadrian and for the reader.
Okay. Yeah.
Unless it's not actually Gibson.
Well, no, I'm with you. I think, for the record, like sometimes I say, okay, yeah, but it's like I want to hear your thoughts and your opinions on the moment. And I am of the opinion that I do think that this is very healing. It's meant to be. I mean, it only gets like crazier and more heartfelt, right? As like Gibson cracks another joke that, you know, he's learning, reflecting on an earlier Socrates quote, which is a fun bit. Gibson pulls in the man, Hadrian, for a hug, and his voice cracks as his apatheia breaks, and Hadrian's never heard that before. And he says, "You are every inch the man I'd hoped you'd be, my boy. I am proud of you."
Yeah, I mean, maybe I cried a little, but no, it is horrendous.
I cried a little this time. I mean, I was like a little like, man, I wish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm never going to get that, so that's pretty cool.
Right. So sick for Hadrian, right? Yeah.
So sick for Hadrian.
So cool. So cool.
Cross, if I decide you're my dad, can you just tell me I'm proud of you? Or tell me you're proud of me? Because this is just some guy decided was his dad, so.
Joshua.
Yeah.
Joshua boy. My boy.
Yeah.
Coming close. I'm so sorry.
You smell like cigarettes and menthol, and also
I smell like cigarettes and like I've been.
That's
so
crazy.
I started chewing. I actually started chewing the chew packs, and I realized too late
Why
that
do
like
you
you're
smell
not
like
supposed to do
patchouli?
that. You're supposed to just put that in the inside of your lip, and you're not supposed to chew those Zin packets. It's
You
not
smell
good.
like a stripper I know named Cinnamon. Oh my god.
Yeah, we met at Tassels. We went to
yeah.
Tassels together. Yeah, Cinnamon and I. Josh, I'm so sorry. Josh, I just want to tell you, I'm so proud of you and everything that you've accomplished in these intervening years.
Which is
since I picked
the things
you up
I've
from
accomplished
the
that you're
men's.
proud of me for.
So sorry, since I picked you up from the men's bathroom when your mom abandoned you
yeah.
as a child. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. And you were 14 at that point, and
That sounds about
you know,
right.
I'm just doing my best to.
And you're proud of me
Make
for
sure.
3 things. Which three things?
Three things. I'm really proud of you for three things. One, the fact that you do a great job sourcing Chinese cigarettes because they got something in them that no one else has, and that's real good for me. And I've got a serious problem, and I appreciate that you're like the voice of reason and rationality in that. Second, you're really good at making sure.
Making what?
I'm making sure that I get the water that I need every day, because otherwise I don't know the keep talking like this because it's pretty crispy. It's pretty tough to talk like this.
No, I think that was pretty healing. Let's move on.
No, that was only two. I got one more. Joshy, my boy, Joshy. I gotta say, the one time that you brought me to the library back in '97 was one of my favorite moments. And I know it was just when you was just 14, because I just picked you up from the bathroom and you brought me. But it was a kid's read along, and the fact that you couldn't fucking read, I felt so smart showing you the letters. Man, it was so nice. It was so nice. You're so smart now. You learn so much in so short a time.
Hey, Pa, the only thing I can really say is I'm just happy I could reintroduce you to letters. I know you like letters, and I'm happy you're back at them. And you can form them together for words or sentences or paragraphs. And
I'm so glad
as
you
far
thought
as
that
those,
was good.
Those Chinese smokes, the one thing I could say is, I don't know. I can't fucking speak Mandarin.
Dude, that actually hurt a little bit because, like, I don't do that kind of. I generally don't try to do that because that is in the offensive range.
Incredibly offensive. Yeah.
Well, I meant on the vocal cords, but also true. But.
And also, thanks for picking me up from that bathroom when I was 14 years old. To be completely honest,
it was just needles everywhere, man.
I wasn't on the run.
You only had one leg. You were on a hobble.
I was there with my family. They were just giving me some privacy, and it was a little bit too awkward to tell you not to take me. So you thought you were saving me, but at the end of the day, I did.
And they forgot.
Well, they were Chinese, and they didn't really want to deal with the fact that they might lose Chinese their passports.
Cigarettes.
Well,
Is that
so
it?
many
Is
of the
that
cigarettes. Yeah, from my mom gave them to me. She said you can use these to barter in the bathroom if anything comes up, and then it did, and I was like, hey, I got these cigarettes, and you were like, you're coming with me, and I didn't really know because I didn't really speak Mandarin at the time very well. Or Cantonese, which my father spoke Cantonese, my mother spoke Mandarin, and they didn't really speak to each other.
Which was it? Did they smoke or did they spoke those languages? Okay,
they spoke Mandarin, they spoke Cantonese, they smoked crystal meth, and now here I am.
I similarly preferred to smoke crystal meth and then chew Mandarin and Cantonese, but that's because I was just too cheap for the in-lip stuff, from the proper vendors. So I appreciate that you gave me the cigarettes because then I got my... Okay.
Finally, he addresses Valka, asking if she'll take care of him. And she says back, depend on it. I am glad I got to meet you, Dr. Gibson. Hadrian says he was like a father to him and that he will come back to see him again before they say a final goodbye.
It's a very bittersweet moment in a lot of ways. I'm so glad you cut us out of this because this is, wow, such a horrific distraction from like a fantastic
is deep
section.
Water.
Jason. But not all tears are grief. I sometimes think we do more harm than good, teaching what we teach. Reason is such a small part of being human. We schools climb our towers, look at the sky, and forget the world. So often, we don't see the truth because we won't look low enough. Chasing reason, chasing facts, we forget to be human. To be human is the far greater thing, dear boy, Now go, before I go with you.
Good end. It's a good end to the man. It's a good
Hey,
end
you
to
know,
the
we
character.
forgot to say maybe Gibson was going to go with him, but that he wasn't going to go with him.
And
but
then maybe he was
going to
smoke some cigarettes. I don't know. Some
He did a
Cantonese
little bit of crystal
ones.
meth,
Yeah.
some
Yeah,
Cantonese
right.
crystal meth, and
But,
then we move on. All right.
To the point, though, with Gibson, I do think that, like, he excellently portrays himself here. He breaks apathia, and then he, like, similarly, like, puts back his biggest aphorism on Hadrian, and then says that, like, he gives him an out for grief. And he's like, grief, reason, and, like, we try to reason away grief, and that's incorrect. And he's like, grief is deep water is my primary thing that we've associated with Gibson. There are other ones that we have, but grief is deep water always comes through Gibson's
Keeps
voice.
coming back.
Yeah. And he's like, man, I hope you understand that, like, reason is just a part of this. And so,
Reason
like,
is a
well,
thing
it
to
is-
study, but to be human is to be
yeah,
free.
is to be
Like,
more
yeah.
than that. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which-
I mean,
a wild thing to think about that comes from that chapter specifically, and I won't dwell on it too much, but the Chantry's whole thing is like quelling Americania and making sure nobody has those same ideals. But if the Americanii and the Scholiasts are at all in conjuncture, then they're elevating the ideas of Stoicism, which I feel like would lead back to another Americanii revolution, in the sense that they would say, like, release your emotions, understand that you could become part of a body and choose your own future. Like, I feel like Scholiast ideals almost align with Americanii development. In a lot of ways.
they do, I think, while simultaneously being, like, antithetical to them. I think that what's interesting to me, if we analyze this with, like, a current lens, is Scholiasts are like librarians today. And I love this, and this is also something that we didn't mention as we were kind of talking through this, because I think I skipped a quote here, but, like, Volca says Dr. Gibson, right? Which is important because we get the tour behind all the
Incredible.
tours that
Yeah.
we know. Which is, like, just like a subtle jab. It's just like a nice little, like,
Or- yeah.
kidney punch, of like the story. Like, why are they tours? They're doctors. One of the things that I love about this section is also that we get, like, the answer to Tor being doctor, right? Like, it's such a
Yeah.
clean cut answer.
It was Doc, now it's Tor. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fun little, like, adjacent thing. And to be fair, we've talked about so much, like, foreshadowing and other things like that. And, like, Tor's been there the whole time, and we never once consider the fact that it's a short abbreviation on the other side of doctor.
Yeah,
right?
never put that
Yeah,
together.
blindsided by a lot of different degrees. So yeah, it's interesting.
It's also super cool that Hadrian has a moment to, like, say goodbye for the last time, we assume,
Yeah.
here. It's an emotional moment. It's cool. Beyond that, Gibson's back, and then Gibson's gone. And Hadrian gets closure. It's like
We get 8 chapters, you know.
it's hard to feel sad because it's really only positive. Because it's like Hadrian got the chance to say goodbye to Gibson.
Right. His nose flapping in the wind, you know, like in so many different ways,
Yeah.
reminding him of his own failure.
So it's like
You know, he
it's
gets
a
a
moment
second
of
chance.
closure. And Hadrian even accepts, like, this is the last time I'll see you. Goodbye. And a late goodbye is better than no goodbye.
Right. Which leads us into the last command, which is a very different tone. And these chapters juxtapose each other so interestingly. I love this chapter because in many ways I find it to be Hadrian Marlowe realizing he's an asshole the chapter over the course of the
Yes.
time.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, it's him at his worst.
Yeah. Well, his worst and his best in some ways
it's
because,
him
like, he understands
realizing how he treated Switch too. Like,
entirely. This is this is the rationalization of him understanding his fuck up that he made 70 years of his actual life ago at this point. Like, 70 lived years, he can rationalize it and be like, man, fuck, I still kind of am the same person, but simultaneously,
which Switch never got
understand
elevated.
Why?
So Switch is dead at this point, we have to assume.
Assumptively, yeah, presumptively, for sure.
Because unless Hadrian did elevate him to...
Or he was frozen, yeah.
Or frozen,
for a very long time.
I guess if it was ship freight, we might run into him 200 years from now, but...
Yeah. But why would he,
Maybe. Cheaper that way.
Yeah. Definitely cheaper. But Siren's whole thing here is very different, right? Like, she approaches Hadrian at the last moment and is like, hey, I am here. I'm going to take off. I'm in love with a fisherman from the island, Tim. And I'm going to stay here. And Hadrian is really struck by this, as he feels like he could make calls to call maybe the guards and like abduct her and otherwise, but simultaneously that he shouldn't. He should let her be here with her man, as this is Siren, who is there for him forever since he was like a little man, a little boy inside of the Colosseum, this gutter rat, and then through everything else. There's no betrayal here like there is with Switch. So simultaneously, there's no like angle that he can take there outside of this choice of like giving her the chance to live this life. And so instead, through his anger, his ire, his disapproval, his disappointment, he gives her and extends one final command: to live and to light a candle for them in the sanctum.
I feel like throughout this chapter, Hadrian goes through a bunch of back and forths with himself, but it's just like the one thing I've been saying Hadrian should do for his Colosseum friends, which is just to like give them like money and status and set them free.
Give them a better life, which is exactly what Siren gets. Yeah.
And he's so fucking mad about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, Siren got you off the planet. Siren got you here. Siren's not your best soldier. Like,
I think actually I would argue a little bit differently here. I think Siren maybe is his best soldier, but also simultaneous. And I would argue this over Polino. And I want to say this because like RA, and especially this book, I think paints it in such a way that like Siren is the one of whom is seen the most, I think, outside of Volca. But also that gives her the best reason to leave, right? Like she saw the demons of RA. She fought them with him in that moment.
She's done it all. Yeah.
She was the one who did not question Horizon, walked into the room compared to everyone else. She was willing to step forward with Hadrian. She can do all of those things. Simultaneously, she understands the danger and the risk and is like, hey, if I can be done now, I want to be done now. She's got the clearest picture painted of Hadrian in the future and otherwise.
She even says like, will you ask me to stay? And he's like, I won't, or will you make me stay? And he's like, I won't make you stay, but fuck you. And I'm like, dude, just let like your best soldier who thought she was going to die in a colosso 100 years ago have like 20 years of a good life.
Yeah. 50, at best.
Is that wild to ask at this point?
No, right. And I also think that that's why she waited so long, right, to so many degrees. And also, like, she has risked everything the whole story. Siren is, like, I think I tried to point this out as often as I could while we were covering it. But, like, Siren is strangely, I think, the most thought out to some degree of the side characters that, like, Rockio didn't ignore but intentionally built out along the way. And I tried to mention her every single opportunity that I could because I do think that she is so tangential in some ways, but is simultaneously the one that is always fucking there. Like,
I will say,
it's easy to forget.
Siren is a character that should be bigger in an adaptation than she is in the books.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, but also, like,
even just being present would make her, like, being visually there would make her more present.
I can't remember the name of the Game of Thrones guy, the slave boy that's elevated. What's his name?
The Unsullied guy, Grey Worm?
Yes, Grey Worm, correct. So, like,
that's a great example, actually.
To me, Siren is Grey Worm, but you don't realize that he's that she is Grey Worm until late in this novel, right? And so I think that's the benefit of it to some degree, because like Grey Worm has important placed upon him because it's like, oh, everyone's freed, and so now you're responsible for leading everyone. As opposed to Siren, of whom has always been there. She's been consistent. She's been around. She fights through things. You know, she's an adjacent character without ever being a primary force. And I think that that's an important, like, subtle distinction that I really like. As such, it's also okay that she slips out because she belongs as a part of that Colosso crew. And it's okay that, like, not every one of those is going to work out and can't. And, like, we'll have differing opinions. So he's willing in the end to let her go. It holds no rage for those of whom held it back from him as well.
Yeah, he learns that Polino knew.
Yeah.
But,
And
that's
Alora.
rough.
Yeah.
And Alora.
Yeah. It's tough. What any other thoughts on Siren and that whole?
I think that Hadrian shows himself more villainous in this chapter than most other.
For sure. But he comes out on the other side. Like he
But
thinks
he's
through it
understanding
negatively.
it. If he shows himself that villainous in this chapter, either he wasn't actually a dick at all, or he was a full-on monster. If this is how later Hadrian remembers him. Either he's
Sure.
lying in one way or another. Like, I feel like it is so juxtaposed, it is so whiplashed, that the only thing I can tell myself is that he's either giving himself an out for his, like, atrocious behavior here, or he's remembering his negative thoughts more harsh than they were. But
I agree more with the latter than I do the former. I do think that some of that has to do with the fact that he thinks back to this and he feels himself being harsh and aggressive, and he draws those comparisons to Switch and others, and that and alone gives him sort of the merit on which to stand, where he's like, I could be mean, I could be worse, I don't, I back off, I should.
it's like whenever
And
you
I'm
get
like,
his
I'm
internal
mad for a
monologue, he
brief
sounds like a
moment, and then
dick.
he's like, God, I can't do anything about it, and I shouldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And so, like, those are those breaking moments where he's
But at
like,
the end,
man,
he lets her go and commands her leave, and I like that. I like
Yeah.
that.
right, sends her off properly. She gets to live on her like
Commands
island
her
planet.
live, sorry.
Yeah, commands her to live, which is like such a nice note. We get a character that lives in our anime episode forever. You know, like one of them
Yeah,
is good, no matter what.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. With that, we move on to our last chapter, The Lone and Level Sands. Again, a pretty straightforward chapter that we'll lead into next week here. But they arrive at the unnamed planet that was mentioned by Horizon, and find next to nothing on this unexplored edge of the galaxy. The gravity of the planet is close to Earth, 1.007, so very similar. The water previously as well, and everything else interestingly similar to Earth, but not identical. All there is to start with, though, is dust and old rock, from what they're reading from the extraplanetary view.
Yeah, I mean, there's like some interesting call out here where it's like an atmosphere isn't necessarily rare in that it makes water, but just in that it retains water.
Right.
But beyond that, I don't think too much of this. Other than
Yeah.
that, they're looking for some black rock ruins, you know?
They're diving in. They start scanning, and Hadrian decides to go on one of these flights as they scramble their Sparrowhawks. It's an awesome experience, as it's described, as a much more physical thing than any other kind of flight that we've seen in the series.
I didn't
as they
really
approach
like that
the planet. Oh yeah, it reminds me of like spit tubing, right? In a lot of ways, it's like very
Hadrian's
physical.
talking about like
Yeah.
the slowness of faster than light travel, but the fastness of less than light travel. And
The gravity, the weight of it all. Yeah.
as a guy who likes roller coasters, I like this scene.
Yeah, entirely. It's so good. It just makes you think about, like, I always think about in these moments, including like spit tubes and similar. I think about ODST. Did you play ODST? Did you watch it?
Of course.
Man, that opening cinematic when you're dropping is like one of the greatest of all time, in my opinion, of all games ever. And you're just like, you're in it, you see it, you're watching everything else fall. It's hell. and then you break through. This is also why I like the movie Overlord so much, as I mentioned previously. And
Overlord
my
is
God.
better than ODST because the best Halo is Reach, but I will die on that hill forever.
You haven't watched Overlord that yet. though,
No,
right?
I was saying
We talked about
Overlord
this?
is
Oh.
better than I've
Oh,
watched
sure,
Overlord.
Sure.
Fuck you.
Wait,
I love Overlord.
You did? Okay, you did.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I saw
all right.
that shit in
Hang on.
theaters like day one.
Sick. Me too.
Yeah.
I didn't see it day one. I saw it day 4, and I walked in blind with my dad, and we watched it together in a movie theater alone. I think I talked about
I
this
watched
before.
in
but
day
like,
one because the guy from, well, there's 2 guys from Marvel in it now, but one of them wasn't in there yet.
Right.
The guy who played Fitzsimmons in Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was in it, and I was like, holy shit, he's in a movie. I'll go see that opening day.
Sick. Love that. I saw it because I loved the art
trailer
that was
was also
done and
great,
otherwise.
yeah.
I did not watch a single trailer. I just generally knew like the people that were involved, and I was like, sounds good. World War II movie, I'm in. I had no idea that it had anything to
I
do with
saw it
zombies.
with Brandon and my wife, and neither of them saw the trailer, and I was so happy neither of them saw the trailer. But the trailer doesn't say anything about zombies. It is just the trailer I remember is just that the first scene. It's just them dropping out of the plane,
Sure. Yeah.
and
Yep.
then it's some weird shit that is horror.
Yeah, right. I importantly, I think I just referenced this slightly incorrectly. I first saw it alone, and then 2 days later brought my dad to the theater to see it
Hell
blind.
yeah. Hell yeah.
And I was like, because we love the same kind of things, and I was like, you need to know nothing about this. I will pay for your ticket. We're gonna go watch this together. And it's like a top 10 experience with my dad ever. So,
Overlord continues to be one of my favorite like bullshit movies that just exists. Not that it's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's an incredible movie, but like
it's in my
why-
honorable mentions of favorite movies, which
why
is
is
like top
that
50.
there? You're like, whoa,
Yeah.
Overlord is way better than it should have been. You know, like,
Also, importantly, Jed Kurzel, who does the soundtrack, is a miracle. He's so fucking good. It's so good. I listen to that while writing all the time. Highly recommend it to writers.
I'll
It's
also
good.
say the sound design for the horror aspects of that movie are incredibly well done.
I will never forget the meat hooks. We'll put it that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very good sound design. Very
I think about it-
unenjoyable sound design.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it right now, and I'm like, well,
The
okay,
sound
to
of that movie is
round-
better than anything else. It's bad. Let's round it out with the lone and level sands, you know?
we're in that chapter. Hadrian thinks to compare this place to ancient Egypt and for foreign long lost worlds as he thinks back to the black stone pillars, glyphs, anaglyphs, and more of Volca and his notes on the quiet sites before. Hadrian offers up a hefty bounty to the first one to find one, being 100 Hurasams, as the crew from space finds underground seas and more as they begin to explore the wider space of this planet. Nothing too crazy here, but there's some questions about what's going to happen.
The comparisons with like RA over Egypt that it like starts
Yeah.
to adapt are
Egypt
fun.
in particular. Yeah.
I mean, it specifically tells us this is desert. The moons are weird and red, and everything's a little tequila, like Dune, you know?
And also, on the other side of this, we know that Alexander hates sand. So,
Oh, because it's coarse and irritating. It gets everywhere.
coarse and irritating. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
Naturally.
okay. I'm sure I've said this before. Anakin not liking sand makes sense, and it is actually a really good character
Definitely.
moment
Yeah.
if it was better written. It's written weird, but the fact of the matter is he grew up a slave on a dust planet, a sand planet. He should hate sand. I wish he would have been like, I hate sand.
The
It's
moment he
coarse."
encounters grass, it makes sense functionally.
Yeah, it's like they could have played up the fact that he grew up a slave on a sand planet and
Absolutely.
like portrayed that in any way other than just him being like, I don't like sand. It's fine.
Yeah.
Moving on.
So, Hadrian does doze in the saddle, though, while he's in the Sparrowhawk, and I think it's best just to read his quote here, which is so strong. I stood upon a great plain, not rough, but paved and smooth. Ahead, a black dome rose shallow against the sky, perfectly smooth and surrounded by pillars wider than any tree. A great crowd stood about me, but did not mark me as I passed them by. White hair, white horns, black cloaks, and black armor. Black too, their banners snapping in the wind, each painted with the device of a white hand wide upon its face. I saw once more the figure of a creature tall and terrible, silver-crowned, leading a man in chains. Without having to be told, I knew that here was the scourge of earth, the prophet, the Aeta Bayatani, the Shiomu, the Pale King, Siriani Doreika. Before he stirs and awakes and nearly sees, he sees the round arches that pierce red sand, marking a path up a mountain, a door formed in nearly full circles here. So he wakes from this dreamish nightmare to finally seeing some remnants of this future civilization. Remnants of a future civilization. Just saying. Crazy.
2 times listening to this.
Yeah.
The shift from him being in the ship to here is like half a sentence.
Yes.
It's crazy every time. It is one of the best written, and then he wakes up from a dream moments I've ever had, where I was like, what the fuck is going? Did I miss something? I had to like skip back and be like, what is going on? They just dive into the scene. They're just like, and then we're looking at stuff, and then Doriaika, the king in the crown of silver, carrying the leash of our main character. It legitimately, like, both times I've listened to this, I wasn't in a position where I could actively grab my phone and check. So I just had to keep listening and be like, the fuck was happening? A wild moment each time where I'm like, did I doze off? Like, did I miss something? But it's really cool to put this dream sequence in there. As far as the dream sequence itself, a lot of it is things we've gotten, but wow. The one on the chain that Hadrian sees upon the prophet, the scourge of earth, the Aeta, Bayatani,
yeah.
the Xiaomi, the Pale King,
Shiomi, yeah. Pale
the
King.
Shiriana Doriaika. Upon that chain is
Yeah.
Hadrian himself.
Yeah.
Does that imply to me that Hadrian will eventually be led to side of the Pale? Maybe. Or does that imply to me that what Hadrian does actually serves the Pale's interests more than humanity's? Very much so.
Cool.
We
All right.
still don't understand.
It's very true. We didn't get anything on the Pale throughout this. We came here to learn more about the Pale. Instead, we learned way more about the Americani.
I would say this entire book, we've only come to experience the Pale and understand the Pale through the Imperial lens. So far.
Right. We were looking for the Pale through maybe the Quiet. Instead, we got a lot of Quiet and no Pale.
And a ton of imperialism.
Yeah, a lot of Imperial history. So, to end the week, Josh, he offers the soldier of whom is flying him around, Arda, a bottle of wine, and he offers him, he's like, hey, I got a Candarine, red or white. If you take me there faster, what do you want after this has been discovered? And he goes, red. And he's like, man after my own heart.
Yeah.
And it'll be a couple of hours, so they punch it, they lock it in, they're flying to the location.
I loved the humanism of that moment, and that also like harkens back to like something whenever they get a signal and they all start kind of joking, like the first one to find it gets 100 Hurasams. Oh, you should have bet on us. Oh, I wish we got this before we had leave. And he's like, at the end of the day, we're like at the most dangerous place at the edge of the universe, and nobody ever knows if we'll ever see another person again. And these fuckers are joking. We love humanity.
Having fun. Yeah.
And I think
It's such a good line. Yeah.
this is also one of those moments. I'm going to give you some wine. Let's go. Red or white? Red. But there's more to that
You're my kind of guy. Yeah.
to the story. at the end of the day, Hadrian's colors are red. It's the Red Company and the devil.
True.
And they are flying with fear of the pale, the white.
Yeah, okay. I hadn't even considered that, but I love that. I love that idea. You're totally right. Yeah.
So who's
Thematic
going to
resonance.
succeed?
Yeah.
Who is going to succeed in this encounter? How do we proceed? Is it the red devil of Madois, or is it the white pale of space? And he chooses the red, and he fires off towards it. That's how I read it. That's what I said.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And what a sick ending to this week to end there. Yeah. A lot to read next week. Before I talk about next week, Josh, I want to mention we talked a little bit about this in the Devil's Cut, which people can go check out on patreon.com. And I want to pose it to you. We're looking at taking a month-ish break, not from the podcast in general, but from this series. Just take it like a second to breathe so we can come back at the end of this book. Josh, I do want to pose it to you. Do you want to do it at the end of this book, or do you want to do it at the end of next book?
That's a hard question. This book feels very central. I think if we pause at the end of this book, I will have a better time in whatever we do in the interim. But if we pause at the end of next book, I will be more excited to dive back into the series. I don't really know for sure where that's going to land, but
you're going to have to make that call. But
you tell me where you want to pause, Crossland. You're the only one who's read this shit.
I've already dictated everything else about the show possible.
Pause
That's
at
my
the end
whole
of this
gig.
book. Let's read Salem's Lot.
All right, we're gonna read a fucking book. So we're not solid on what we're gonna read.
Let's
love
read
the Salem's Lot. We're gonna read one of a couple of different Stephen King-ish options. We're gonna put it up to vote for patrons.
Oh, read it in a day, motherfucker. Let's go.
Yeah. And we're going to do it over 3 episodes. So importantly, or 3 or 4 episodes, depending on the book. But we're going to take like a month to read a little side story, then come back into this. But it's important, I think, that we indulge a little bit of the Stephen King on the side before we eventually make our way to the Dark Tower. So you've already read a couple of King at this point, a couple of Kings. Interestingly, I think the only King that you've read that we've talked about at the very least is Richard Bachman. Yeah, Bachman. Yeah, that you've read. So
now we could read The Stand. We could read.
I suggested Eye of the Dragon, Salem's Lot, The Stand. Yeah,
we could also do the equipment manual of Pathfinder 2e.
We definitely could. As someone who has played a lot of 3.5 and a little bit of Pathfinder, I'm going to say thank you so much for listening to this week's podcast. Next week, we're going to be talking about Empire of Silence through Whispers, 66 through 71. It should be a great chunk. It's a similar size chunk. For similar reasons, I recommend that you give it the same amount of time that you maybe gave this last section, wanting to reread little bits here and there. You're gonna wanna.
Yeah. Look, thank you for listening to us. Please listen also or subscribe to our Patreon. That is patreon.com/words and whiskey.
Nailed it.
And we also really appreciate a 5-star review, any platform that you listen to us on. If you follow us on Patreon, you can get a bunch of cool bonus content, other books that we cover, conversations we have, our opinions on TV shows that are airing, our opinions on just like the boat outside of my house. I don't know, man. It's all there.
Music, man. Yeah.
There's
also
a lot of music involved.
Yeah. Early previews and Josh's music and otherwise. And we do, man, it's been a full year thing at this point, but like there's something coming on Musashi in the near future. There's no guaranteed timeline, but man, what a story to tell, what a story to read and otherwise. And I'm so grateful to our patron of whom sponsored the episode, because like, dear God, I've not experienced this kind of thing with literature in a while. And reading almost 100-year-old story that feels like it's brand new is crazy. So very excited to continue.
Sometimes people give us amazing stories to read. Sometimes people listen to us be little stupid ass shitheads. But the most important thing to note is that if you don't give us a 5-star review and then follow us on Patreon, we are going to bury you in the core of a planet within a space shuttle, locked within a Faraday cage, and surrounded by salt water with nuclear bombs
weapons. Yeah.
designed to explode you, drown you, and bury you if you
It's a
don't
big yikes,
give
dog.
us the 5-star review.
It's the biggest yikes, dog. You know what I mean? Like,
It's like the most we could do, you know?
there's no bigger yikes, dog.
It's maybe the number one biggest thing you could do to somebody other than blowing up their son. But we're not monsters, so we wouldn't.
We're just monsterish
that.
enough. So, that said, with that, dear listener, there are endings, and this is
There are
this episode's.
endings. Yeah.
There are endings. And this is one. Cool.
Rad.
Dope.